Hello everyone! Welcome to J Who Crochet. I am Reggie and this is Yarniversity. It's been a while, but yes, I have been sick, but I'm feeling way better and I'm very happy that we can have this live chat today. I'm very happy to see all of you here in the chat. Good to have you all with us. And I'm saying us because I have a very special guest today and I am going to bring him up. So everybody give a warm welcome to my brother, Opek. Hi!
Hey everyone, good evening. Nice to see you. Nice to join you guys again here on the
Good to have
channel.
you. Very good to
Always,
have you.
always good to be here. I'm always happy to be here. It's always a lot of fun.
Yes, so for those of you who haven't seen Opek before, Opek has been a guest on my channel quite a few times in the past on different videos, and we already did one live together in the past. And today I am hosting him because we are talking about a subject that he knows a lot more about than I do. Opek, my brother, he is a photographer and photography teacher, and he will actually be the host today, and I will be co-hosting on my own channel. So Opek, everyone is saying hi to you in the chat.
Yeah, I'm following you guys in the chat. You might be seeing a little bit of a delay, and every time you see me look over to the side, I'm not bored. I have you guys open up here, and I'm reading your comments, and we will refer to you guys. So feel free to ask questions, and we will make stops and answer as best as we can. I'll try not to overhost you guys, and Reggie will be here also to give feedback on the unphotography side of things, because as all of you probably know, I know nothing about the yarn arts.
Hey, but you did
I can
prove
give.
that you know quite a lot about it.
I'm naturally talented, but but yeah, I will be your photography expert for this show, and Regev will be your yarn arts expert. And in between us, I hope we can answer all of your questions and give you good tips and practical advice as to what you can do to photograph your creations better, whether you're doing it just through social media and making nice documentation of your work, or if you're doing it out of a business inclination of advertising your work or selling it online. So we will mainly be focusing on on these aspects of photography. I try not to keep it too geeky, too techy, and I
and
really
talk in
tried.
terms that us muggles understand.
I will keep it as muggle as possible, and yeah, and we're gonna have fun.
So, hi everyone joining in. Welcome in. If you came a little late, I introduced my brother, Ofek, who will be hosting today's live with me. Thank you very much for coming in and joining us today. Please don't forget to give us a thumbs up. And if you're not yet subscribed to the channel, please subscribe down below using the subscribe button. And you can also join the very special membership program of the channel by pressing the join button. And if you press that, you will get a rundown of what it means to be a member of the channel, what it takes from you, and what you get in return. And in today's description box down below, you can also find a link to Ofek's channel. It is in Hebrew, but if you are into, that kind of stuff, and show him some support on his channel as well. Lori is saying she got the little box of crochet that she won from my channel. I'm very happy that you got it, and I'm looking forward to see what you make with it. Everyone is saying hello to you. Catherine did say that you look like Bruno, and she cannot unsee it. And also that we love geeky stuff here. So yes, hi Kim, hello, welcome in, and hello Jamie. Yes, I'm very happy to see you all here today, and Opek is here, and I'm happy that you are here. So it's a very, very happy day all together. I kind of missed this. This long break was not healthy. See what I did that? Lisa is saying that she would love to learn how to take good pictures without having to Photoshop the pictures. I'm sure that you guys will get a lot of very good information in today's chat. And Alice is saying she can barely read, so please don't make her understand Hebrew as well. Yeah.
Hebrew's not so difficult. It's just completely backwards and uses completely different font text.
No, not difficult at all. No.
Yeah.
And you'd not at all have to break your teeth and use a lot of phlegm when you talk. Yes. Right. So, as we were saying, if you guys are just joining in, please don't forget to hit the thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Also, in the description box below today, you will find links to different equipment that we will be talking about. So, if we talk about any kind of pieces of equipment on today's live and you are interested in them, links are already in the description box down below for you guys. One last thing, because before we start, I did want to mention that there is still a sale going on my Etsy shop until the end of the month. So today and tomorrow are your very last chance to get anything from my Etsy shop, 25% off. And that includes the fresh listing of the March Yarn Club. So I already updated it on the Etsy shop for those of you who are interested. If you get it now, you will get it 25% off, the pre-order for the March edition. And I also wanted to make sure that you all know that the March edition will be wool-free. So the yarn in the March edition is wool-free yarn for those of you who are wary of getting different yarn subscription boxes because you never know if you get wool or not. Yes?
How do you make wool-free yarn? It's made of nylon?
It's made of either cotton, acrylic, plant-based fibers, tencel, bamboo, linen. I can go on, but the people in the chat can.
Yes, I got it. Yeah, it wasn't. All right, cool.
Yes. So for those of you who were interested in getting the box and were wary because of wool content, though the March edition has no wool in it, it's wool-free, it's plant-based fiber, and it's hand-dyed as always, and it's 25% off right now. Everything on the shop is, by the way. And that is pretty much all the announcements that I had for today. You know, for the beginning of the class. We somehow managed to do that in 8 minutes. Normally it takes longer.
It's because you've been sick and gone for a while. So
yeah, so I don't have anything new to say.
You need to jump back on that horse.
Right.
Next week, we promise we'll have way more chit-chat for you guys.
Yes, I will work on that. Harriet is saying that she can read Hebrew. She went to Hebrew school. Alice saying that your question about wool is a dangerous question here in this forum. So yes, thank you all. I am doing a lot better. My voice, as you can probably hear, is still not 100%. I have been sick for 3 weeks. For a very large portion of those 3 weeks, I had no voice at all. So this is a very big improvement, and I hope that we will make it through today's live without too many problems. So hi to everyone coming in. It's wonderful to see you all. Please don't forget to hit the thumbs up. And yeah, I think we are ready to start. Are you guys ready to start? Do you want to hear about how to photograph your crafted items? I will give Ofek the stage
the
now.
stage. All right.
um,
I just want to say before we jump into the presentation that I made for you
yes.
guys, I try to keep it, like I said, simple, not too techy, not too geeky, and yarn arts oriented, as you will see. And I've seen already some of you wrote some questions in the chat. All the questions that I've seen, we do have plan to arrive at those topics. So if you do find that we spoke on something that you asked about and still haven't answered your question, just write it again. We'll make stops every other slide or so and answer questions. So without further ado,
Um, yeah, I need to wait. Yes, techie,
so
techie.
yeah, we're talking about photography for social media and e-commerce use and purposes. Like I said, whether you're just posting to your Instagram for the heck of it, or you're business savvy, you have your own entrepreneurial business and promoting your products and your art and selling them, then
And this is very important to me, I gotta say, as a designer, if you are a crochet pattern tester. If you're a crochet pattern tester for a designer and they ask you at the end of the test to send them pictures, this presentation will help you to get very good pictures that will actually be useful for the designer that you are working for. So take notes.
okie doke. So let's just jump into it. And right away, I want to start with, probably one of the first questions everyone asks. Is it better to take these kind of pictures with your camera or your phone? What actually is the difference between those two devices? Phones nowadays, all of them have cameras, obviously. They actually have not half bad cameras, but still people might have you know, their own digital camera, either a compact or even if you're a photography enthusiast, you might have one of those interchangeable lens ones where you can change the lens and control all the settings. But which one is better? Well, it really comes down to their strengths and weaknesses. There are different devices that have a little bit of different uses, and actually phones have some very nice advantages and cameras have their own. So for camera strengths, for example, the image quality is pretty much the big one. um, Most cameras, even what's called the entry level ones, like the kind of interchangeable lens cameras, or even some compact cameras that you buy for say $600 and up, would usually have the better image quality. It comes down to just some physical things about them, say the sensor size, for example, which is multiple times larger than the image sensor you have on your phone, and it will affect the image quality. But, and this is a big but, as you will see later in this presentation, if you give also a phone a good enough conditions to shoot in, it will produce very nice and great results. And so those differences in image quality would usually come through only if you are printing your images or shooting in poor light.
So, will that make a difference for in terms of pictures for online, for example? If we're talking Instagram, Facebook, where the pictures are normally not that big, and some of these websites take down the quality anyway when you upload the picture. Would that make a huge difference, or is that more important for people who do, for example, photo shooting for a magazine and stuff like that?
So when you use a picture online, you're really only using its megapixels or its size in pixels. And generally online, you don't need many pixels. So unless you're doing very hard crops, like cutting small bits of the photograph and trying to blow them up very large, you will not benefit much out of having, like some cameras today have 30 megapixel. It's only useful when you're printing, having this many megapixels. For using online, you can get away with 12, 16, and
Okay.
still get very indistinguishable image quality, for example. Um, Another camera strength is what we call creative control. in a camera, you can take a lot of direct control over all parameters of photography, what's called the exposure settings and other settings that might affect how the image turns out. But as I've written here, you need to spend the time to learn how to do that, while, most cameras, most phones will just do everything automatically for you and also do that not not bad at all. So it's really, unless you take on photography also as another hobby or even a profession, you don't really need to know all the creative control stuff, because you can also use them sort of automatically in most situations.
Oh, okay.
Photography is a great hobby if you're looking for something else to do. Like, it's very fun, especially if you're like fiddly like me and like playing with gadgets and whatnot. Has a lot of creative outlets and gets you outside of the house.
I do know that we have here in the chat quite a few people that are photography enthusiasts as well as yarn enthusiasts. So I think that some of our viewers might already have some good equipment at home from their other hobby, and will be happy to learn how they can, use that the correct way.
So that's great. It's great when your hobbies, meet together, and then you like hiking and you also like photography, and you can do photography hikes. Or if you like knitting and you like, I don't know, sitting in a bar and drinking fancy cocktails, and you can open up a cocktail knitting bar.
Yes.
So, right. So I want to talk a little bit about the camera weaknesses. So the main thing is, there, even the best cameras today are not half as immediate as phones. No camera on the market that you can take a picture and immediately share it to the world right out of the camera. It's always involving some clunky app that doesn't work and doesn't connect well.
Yes.
It's terrible.
So familiar.
You can have a a $6,000 camera and it will hardly be able to send pictures wirelessly to your phone. I don't know, the photography world is not there yet. Phones knock it out of the park. So if you're like vlogging, or like have this, the ease of immediately creating something and sharing it to the world from one device is, uncompatible.
Yes.
Which connects also to cameras not being smart. You cannot, for example, process or edit your photos, or you can do
Are
really
you calling
basic.
them stupid?
Well, by what you call today smart devices, cameras, most of them are stupid. Like I said, while they do have Bluetooth and Wi-Fi, they're so clunky, you can hardly do anything with them. You know, you have to work very low tech in today's term with cameras.
True.
Like, have a hard memory card that you take out and put into your computer and stuff. It sounds like so 20 years ago, but that's still how we work. All right. So it creates a complex workflow where if I took a picture if I want to get the best that I can out of a camera, I need to take the picture in the camera, put it into a computer, download the files, edit them on a computer, and then send them to my phone so I can share them normally on Instagram or, or wherever I want to put them. It creates like this more convoluted workflow.
Yes.
It's a lot less immediate.
Exactly. You don't have that instant gratification that you have with phones.
And I don't know how expensive yarn arts get, but photography, like right out the back, you're talking hundreds of dollars for.
It's an expensive hobby.
It tends to be an expensive hobby. Photographers have this joke that if you want to get your kids, away from drugs, you buy them a camera. You get them into photography.
It's the same amount of money goes into it, but at least they're off the drugs.
Yeah. So yeah, like I say, if you already have it as an extra hobby, then you can really benefit out of it. I wouldn't necessarily recommend buying a camera for the purposes of creating content for use online. Maybe on very certain cases only.
Before we move on to the phones, we have
Yeah,
some
let's see if there's
questions.
any questions.
Sorry.
Yes, you.
Yeah,
I'll
that's
scroll back.
leftovers.
Let me know if you see anything, because I'm also trying to scroll back a bit, but
So
I really don't know.
we had okay, I'm gonna start from the bottom. So Catherine was asking, is it worth investing in a camera when you don't know anything about proper photography and the difference and the different settings on a camera? So if you only use the auto, is it worth investing in an actual good camera, or would you just be better off with your phone?
All right, so that's a very common question. Comes back to what I started out with. It depends on if you're going to learn how to use it. So if you're gonna get one and use it automatically always, you're not gonna benefit out of it very much, because, well, almost all cameras, all cameras have automatic modes. You can just turn them on auto and they will take beautiful pictures. Will it be better than what you can get in the automatic mode on your phone? Not necessarily. Will it give you any advantage that you cannot get on most modern phones today? Probably not. So is it worth it? I would say only if you intend to learn how to operate this device.
Okay. We also had wait. I'm gonna go back up because there were a few.
Someone is, well, it's a little bit unrelated question, but Crafty Chats Cafe is asking if analog photography, these film cameras are having a resurgence. Of course, together with all of retro chic fashion, we're having a resurgence of analog photography. I have my own collection of analog cameras, and I shoot film quite a lot.
Alice was also asking what defines proper photography. What when you refer to proper photography, what do you mean?
I'm not sure in the context I might have used it, but I probably meant, for example, if you're a working photographer and you sell prints, for instance, that's a case where you might benefit, where you will definitely benefit from having a camera, and not have someone hire you and show up with your iPhone.
Yeah. Jamie is saying her DSLR, right? Nikon 90 is huge. Oh, okay, I'm gonna wait because she's probably gonna write her comment again. So I'm gonna wait. All right. Catherine
I
was
scrolled quite a while back, and maybe I missed some, but I don't think I've seen any more questions.
Lizzie's asking for DSLRs, is RAW better than JPEG?
Okay, so I think I might have something to do with it a little bit later, because
Okay.
we will talk a little bit about photo editing.
All right.
But in general, RAW is better if you plan on editing photos yourself. If you're just using images straight out of camera, then there's no point in shooting RAW.
Okay. All right, so I think that we can move on. Hello to everyone just joining in. Please don't forget to give us a thumbs up. We are talking about photography for social media and e-commerce, how to photograph or how to best photograph your handcrafted items. And this is my brother Ofek. He's a photographer and photography teacher, and he is giving today's class. So on you go.
All right, and onto like the phone strengths. Pretty much we discussed some of them, so I'll run through them. They're handy. Anyone has them on them all the time. There's a saying, the best camera is the one that's with you. It's very true in so much of the time. I have like 4 different cameras and maybe 10 other ones in my collection, and I take pictures all day with my phone just because that's what you have on you.
Yeah.
So, just what you have with you. They're smart, like we said, they're connected. You can shoot with them, you can edit on them, you can share out of them to the world immediately. Very comfortable out of one device. the interface is a lot more, easy for everyone to understand. So it's a lot easier to use and to master, and it doesn't take, I teach, for example, people how to use photography editing software, and it takes 10 lessons. And if you download, and a photo editing app on your phone, after 5 minutes, you get it, and
Right.
you work with it, right? So it's so much easier. Most of them nowadays have good cameras.
Yes,
Have
exactly. I was gonna say there are a lot of phones that have very good camera quality. I know my my husband always buys the newest phone because his camera is not good anymore.
Yeah, cameras are on today's phone. They're big. Phones practically erased what used to be the compact camera market.
Hi, mom. Hi, dad.
They're
Our
oh
parents are
yeah,
here.
hi. So those kind of products almost don't exist anymore. They are very niche, and um, what we do see are phones competing on which phone has the best camera. Which
Yeah.
phone is the best camera?
Yeah, exactly.
But not if
Which
you can
phone?
make calls out of it or something.
You there is a joke like that about people not even using the phones as phones anymore.
Yeah, you're like videotaping something and suddenly it rings and you're like, oh,
Oh, what is this?
what the heck? Who's calling me on my
People
phone?
calling on my phone? Oh,
Yeah. So yeah, most phones have very decent cameras nowadays.
yes.
The weaknesses for phones, not all phone cameras are equal, unfortunately. Some have not so good cameras, unfortunately, and it's kind of hard to tell. You need to just check out reviews and see examples before you get them, if you're gonna get a phone to be used as your camera. Um, Phones do have a major weakness when compared to proper large sensor-sized cameras, when it comes to shooting in what we consider low light or poor light.
Yes, that's
And poor
correct.
light, it's not like if you're out in the dark in the moonlight. It's if I turn off the video light that's illuminating me now and stay just with the room lights, this is poor light for a phone.
Yeah.
This would ruin the image
Yes,
quality.
true.
All right, so
Yeah, that is one of the problems that I often have with my phone is that you have to have like the perfect time of day when you are filming outside, or if it's cloudy, it might be blurry and all kind of like annoying details like that.
yeah, so I will have a section where I talk more about light and lighting. But this is something that phones, if you really don't give them the best conditions to shoot in, then their image quality suffers greatly, while cameras can still shoot in poor light and have good image quality usually. Um, Organization, if you're shooting a lot of pictures over time, unless you're putting the time and effort to really organize the media on your phone, it usually sort of gets scrambled and it gets difficult to keep track and find all the things that you used,
Yeah, that is correct.
right? And on a camera sort of forces you into this, like I said before, might be convoluted workflow, but it sort of forces you to organize things. And then I can very easily go into my computer and pull out photo shoots I did 5 years ago, for instance, and use this material or search through them. With my phone, it would be a lot more difficult usually, unless I put the time into creating an organizational method on it. Best image quality on phones usually reach with the front-facing camera, so the one like on the back of your phone, and not the one that's facing you. That's especially critical if you're shooting yourself for all sort of uses.
Yes,
So usually, for example, if you're trying to take a picture of yourself wearing something, you will not be able to, if you want to use the best camera on your phone, you will not be able to see yourself while you're taking the picture.
true. Um,
Well, it's
Also,
also true to a lot of cameras, but also so many cameras nowadays have flippy screens that you can see yourself on.
Yes, but one of the things that I dread, I don't know if you have it on your list, but one of the things that I dread is that the best camera on the phone is on the back, which is the side that you normally have your phone laying on. And you always have to clean it before you take pictures, or it gets scratched very easily and so on.
I guess that depends on the phone, because I do know that manufacturers like Samsung and Google and iPhone, of course, use very good glass. It's called Gorilla Glass, and it's a lot more durable. And well, don't go scratching with sandpaper your phone lenses, but in general, you shouldn't worry about them just getting cloudy. It is a good idea to clean them once in a while. Yeah.
Okay,
All
we had
let's look
quite
at
a few chatters. So
Mhm. Yeah, I'll scroll back up.
Fiona was
I've seen the
asking
DSLR
if
question come back again.
Fiona was asking about ring lights. I suppose that we are going to talk about them later when we get to equipment. Jamie said that the spell check was killing her. She meant to say her Nikon DSLR is huge and heavy. It's really mind blowing. The instruction manual doubles as her booster car seat.
Yeah. So yeah, a camera is a picture making machine. It has so many, mind-boggling options to it, because it's a professional tool for professionals. You might, like most people, will probably not use 80% of what their camera can do, but it can still do it. And so the manuals are usually this thick. DSLRs, yes, they tend to be bigger, and lenses are big, and they look like these very big clunky machines. Nowadays, they're starting to shrink a little bit, and you get some very good cameras in very compact form factors. But yeah, part of the whole thing, because mainly because the image sensor is a lot larger than what you get on your compact cameras or your phones, and everything around it needs to be large as well. The ring light question, like I said, we will talk about lighting a little bit later. I don't remember if I have specifically something about ring lights, but we can address it when we talk about lights.
We did have someone saying that they normally they don't have a phone, so they normally use the iPad. Can you address some of your comments for devices such as iPads or tablets and so on? Do they normally have good cameras or good quality pictures?
Well, I don't know like the specifications on those things. They usually come from the same manufacturers, so I don't know if it obviously depends on the model and manufacturer, but a lot of the times it will probably have the same kind of camera, like the same generation phone, so they should usually be comparable between them.
Mm-hmm.
As far as I am aware, I'm not so techy like to know like what's the latest phone model or stuff. I do know cameras very well, but I won't be able to answer your questions like oh, is the iPad 12's camera like this and that. Sorry.
Is there a universal index for all the signs a camera on a phone uses? A camera or a phone uses, I guess. No, a camera on a phone. Wait. Is there a universal index for all the signs a camera on a phone uses? The same as there are for
like
the normal
like
cameras.
the symbols.
Yeah.
Well, while there isn't quite a universal rule to it, every company sort of makes their own. They do tend to be along the same lines and like mean the same thing in different devices or different apps even. So I would say yes. Like usually, if you know one, then you know them all. Yeah,
Catherine was saying that. Sorry.
So I was gonna say I can't quite find like those questions in my feed. I'm a little bit lost.
Are you on the live chat?
Yeah, I'm seeing the iPad question now.
Okay. It might be that you have it delayed because you are watching the YouTube feed, so it's a little later than what we.
Yeah, maybe. So I'll have you read out the questions for me.
Catherine was just, she just made a comment that phone cameras are starting to remind her of spider eyes because there are more and more lenses on the back of the phone.
Yeah.
And Sawaro is saying, I loved my 35 millimeter camera because I would push it and tell it what I wanted to do. And Catherine's saying that iPad and iPhones have the same camera quality. It's just more bulky to handle. So the iPad is just a little bit more bulky, but in terms of quality, it has the same quality as the iPhone
Yeah,
camera.
makes sense. If you're a manufacturer of these devices, you'll just be creating one camera module and putting it into all your devices. You won't be making different ones.
Yeah.
Oh, I see now the question that you asked me before. Okay, so I see
Okay,
where
so
we are.
you're caught up on the chat. Okay.
Yeah, I was checking a little bit further back, but I think we pretty much got them all.
Yeah.
So we will move on.
Move
We'll
on.
talk a
Yes.
little bit about editing pictures. So the thing with editing pictures is that it allows you to really get the most out of the picture that you can. If you're using a camera, then you can shoot a format called RAW. Someone asked me about it in the chat earlier. It's basically having the camera record the entire data that is captured with the photograph into a special file that you can edit later on a computer, and it allows you to get better results out of it and even make some corrections in post-processing that you would usually not be able to do. Um, but again, this is only true if you are shooting this raw file format. If you're just using the JPEG format, then you can still do edits, but you have a lot less flexibility. In general, a camera, both on your phone or a camera device, is always already sort of processing your image when it's saving it a little bit. So any any process that you do later on top of it, it might de- um, deteriorate image quality a little bit, depending on what kind of things you do. If you try to push it too much, like make something that's too dark very light, or the other way around, or make very extreme color adaptations, then you might end up deteriorating your image quality. That's something that's important to know on
Is there today, to your
editing.
knowledge, a phone that shoots raw files, or can you set your
So
phone?
a lot of the latest phones, I mean phones that came out in like the last 3 years, can be set to shoot raw format. And nowadays there's also a new format called HEIF, HEIF,
Mm-hmm.
high efficiency image format, which is sort of like the JPEG format that we all know, but a little bit more like rich
Mm-hmm.
in terms of the data that you can get out of, so you can still edit it a little bit
So it's
more and get better results out of it.
something in the middle between
Yeah,
two
it's a
formats.
new image standard that is coming in, and you see some phones support it already. Still, the most common file format to use for photos when you're done with them, when you need to publish them, is JPEG.
Lacey was asking if there really is a need for all the different lenses on the phone, or it's just a gimmick. So when you buy a phone, when it has those three lenses in the back, does it really give a better picture?
So how phones in how cameras on phones work today is that you actually have different cameras. So you would have one main camera that has like the highest resolution and best quality, and a certain lens attached to it. That's usually like your middle wide lens that's pointing forward. And then you would have an ultra wider lens with usually a lower resolution, and sometimes a longer reading lens, also usually with lower resolution. And what the smartphones today do is they can use the image taken from multiple of these cameras at the same time to do what's called computational photography, and do all sort of really cool things like perceive depth and blur your background and things like that. But the highest quality, there's always usually one camera on it that is the highest quality, the highest resolution. It's usually your default camera, like the one that when you turn on your camera app that the phone will select.
And Catherine was asking, she was saying that she also uses her phone editing software when editing pictures on her phone, because she thinks it used the raw format. Is that a wrong idea? So is it?
So I'm gonna talk now about
Okay.
phone
Yeah.
editing apps. Whether or not the app itself cannot use the raw data if you did not record raw image, like if you set your camera to record raw, and that's usually not on by default. You need to go into like your camera settings and set it on, and then if you recorded the raw data, then you can choose to edit it on the different apps. Yeah. So here in the picture behind us, you can see some of the most, I'll get my laser pointer out, useful, famous, useful, popular kind of photo editing apps. Snapseed is a famous one by Google, completely free. VSCO, Visco is freemium. Like you can use it for free, but most features on it require payment.
I love that
Um,
freemium.
yeah. Lightroom is actually a very cool one. I will talk about it a little bit later some more. It has an app and also has a desktop program, and they can talk together. So that's very useful if you're shooting on your camera, editing on your computer, but need to publish from your phone. Photoshop Express, free to use, lets you do all sort of quick fixes on your phone. So these are a list of some programs that are useful for editing photo and designing, also designing, not just editing, designing ads, for example, or posts to use on your computer. Lightroom is the biggest one that photographers use. Luminar is a new one, Affinity Photo. Canva is a web-based service that can also edit photos and also design posts and social media posts and things like that. Very popular. There's also Capture One that I haven't listed on, that also more for photographers, for photography, a little bit like Lightroom, has a little bit more professional niche. On the phone, Google Snapseed, that's the one that you see here with the leaf.
That's what I use.
Yeah, it's very easy to use. It has a ton of features. I like it. It's very photographic, but also very intuitive. Lightroom Mobile. Lightroom is one of the, gives you a lot of tools and options in regards to really photographic editing, like the sort of editing tools that you get on a computer, photography editing software. You get it on an app, and like I said, it can also talk to the desktop Lightroom program. So for example, if I am shooting on camera and I edit photos on my computer on Lightroom, I can then open them up from my phone, the same photos, and share them or continue editing them, or use them like to export them to another app for like Canva and design with them a post, for example. So Lightroom Mobile is a very useful one if you're working with camera. VSCO, Visco is famous for their filters, for the artsy look. A lot of times people who want to create like a uniform look to their posts, they have like a Visco filter or a Visco recipe that they use. Maybe they even paid for it and bought it.
And then they use it
just
for all of
applied,
their...
yeah, one or two of those for all of their pictures, and then they all have a very uniform look. They do have some really nice ones, but like I said, it's freemium, so like you can use it for free for very few things, and the other ones you need to buy. PixArt is one I saw recommended. Personally, I don't know very well, but it should be like a good app also for editing and designing posts with.
Okay. Which one of these would you recommend the most, or which one do you think, in terms of we are talking photography for social media or photography for your website or your Etsy shop? Would you Is there one of these that you would recommend the most?
I would use Google Snapseed for a lot of the things. First of all, it's completely free. It's very easy to use. If I'm working for my phone exclusively, for instance,
Mm-hmm.
and if you're working on your computer, and also if you're a little bit into photography, then definitely get Lightroom. On your computer, you have to buy Lightroom. It's a subscription program starting from $10 a month. But it's a very high value offer because you don't just get Lightroom, you get Photoshop together with it, you get Creative Cloud Express, which is a service from Adobe that is similar to Canva,
Mm-hmm.
and you get like a ton of other things together with it, as well as, you know, one of the best editing and workflow managing programs in
When
the
you
market.
say it's a subscription that starts from a certain amount, does that mean that it has different levels of what you can do inside of it,
Oh
and
no,
you
you
buy the
can do
base?
everything inside of it once you get the subscription, but the subscription to Adobe starts from $10 a month. You can pay more to get more cloud storage,
Mm-hmm.
or you can pay more to get additional programs in your subscription. For example, if you want video editing programs
Yeah.
together with it. Okay. Let's answer some questions and then enter like the more interesting yes.
Um. So there was only one more question since the last ones we answered, and I think everyone is just listening.
Mhm.
So I guess you're very interesting. Ursula was asking. She was saying she's using PNG to save most of her pictures for her thumbnails. She has a YouTube channel, so I assume she means the thumbnails for her channel. So is it better or not? If she uses PNG, what's the difference for
Okay.
from this and JPEG or?
So PNG is a format used for graphics on the web, so not for printing, but definitely as soon as you have graphics such as text on
Mm-hmm.
top of your picture, then PNG will help those graphics maintain best quality for use on the web.
Mm-hmm.
And I also use PNG for my
For
thumbnails
thumbnails,
for the same
yes,
reason, right? So
exactly.
thumbnails on YouTube, images that have graphics together with them,
Yeah,
PNG is a good format to
you
save
can.
them.
I can say as someone who also works on YouTube and makes thumbnails, you can really see the difference when someone has like a PNG thumbnail. It's crisp. It's like it's really sharp, and you can really like it pops up. I think compared to thumbnails that are not. I think. I don't know. I mean I can really see
Yeah,
certain program
you can
like
see.
sometimes when I see I can see certain YouTubers when their thumbnail was edited on a certain level, and you can really see how crisp the picture is.
Yeah, PNG is pretty good in maintaining both image quality and graphics. So that's why you would want to use it, for example, for thumbnails. If you have just an image, then JPEG is the most efficient, shall we say, because it'll get smaller file size, but
Yeah.
you can also save images as PNG. Yeah.
Alice is saying that when the chat is quiet, it means everyone is listening. And Lacey was saying she knows I'm not used to it because normally people here are not that well behaved. I think they are like putting on their straight face for you. Everyone is like sitting
Oh,
up in their seat, being quiet,
so I'm
not
making the
passing notes in
moderators'
class.
evening easy.
Yes.
Crazy puppy lady is saying I'm going to lurk and crochet.
Yeah, see, people once people can sit and that Yarniversity is interesting when people can just listen in instead of like, making tons of comments, and that means we're just goofing around.
That's cool. I'm digging it. I'm digging it. So shall we jump back in?
Yes.
Well, in this slide, this is the intro to the whole topic of what I call making pictures, or I'm gonna be giving actual tips for composition and taking pictures and working with pictures. But I want to stop on this phrase for a second of making pictures, which is the main shift that think people need to make when it comes to creating photographs, from just taking pictures to making pictures. A lot of what it comes down to making a more compelling image is preparation and a thought process and
Exactly.
planning and careful consideration of what goes into it, what goes where, which colors go together. All these things are gonna get into what I want to show. What in photography we have a term called story, which is not like a story like, you know, Little Red Riding Hood came out in the morning and went to deliver the sweets or whatever. It's like a sense of character to an image,
Yes,
or
exactly.
having
I
it
totally agree.
try to address or to target a certain viewer or to evoke a certain emotion. That's what we call a story. And all those things come down to, you know, this sort of mindset of the photographer or the person taking the photo. From, okay, I made this thing, or I want to create, like, make this photo, I need to use a camera and snap it. You know, a camera is only as good as the person who uses it. It really doesn't matter. That's what I started out with. All right, if you're using your camera or your phone, it really comes down to how you make an image.
Yes, I
So that's
agree.
what we're going to try and try and give you some tips on how to do and
Um, b-
improve.
Before you continue, Ursula was just saying that everyone is putting their best foot forward, so I will be proud of them. I'm very proud of all of you, my students. And Catherine is asking where to find the pattern for the peacock blanket. And
Oh, I'm gonna need to look into. I think that one's from Etsy.
it might be. Um, Ursula is saying that when she creates a thumbnail, she wants to create a certain mood, which will portray the video or what's going to be on the live stream. And I totally agree with that. Ursula's thumbnails always have like a really cool mood setting to them. You feel like you're gonna like sit down and sip your coffee and crochet with your friends. Um, and Lori was saying uh, they are trying to behave in front of the guest professor. But I gotta say, you chose some really good pictures for that exact subject, because when I look at them, I mean that picture in the corner with the bag,
Mhm.
it does really tell its story. It's not just that I see this beautiful crochet bag that I really want to, say,
So I
oh,
like this
that's a
one
really
because, yeah, because it has focus on product, but it also has a character in it.
exactly,
You can
exactly.
imagine the person who would buy this product, and that's why it works very well.
It works very well. I mean, if this was a picture on someone's shop, you can totally feel like, oh, I can like wear this bag and go on this hike, and it's like it gives you a whole feel.
Yeah, and that's like the difference of, you know, we'll talk a little bit later about like just a product shot versus like this kind of more advertising shot. But I want to get into a little bit of the subject of light. Um, Light is a very big thing we talk about all the time in photography. Aside from just having a very big impact on your image quality, like I mentioned before, it has a lot of impact about how the look of your image turns out, especially when you're photographing objects. Um, so light is the raw material of photography. It's what you work with. If there is no light, you cannot take pictures.
Right.
Right? Um,
You can, but there will be nothing
they,
in
they
them.
they will they won't be very good pictures, imagine. Um, Something very important to remember is you cannot photograph what you see. A camera always sees different than what your human eye sees. You might be able to come close in some cases, but in general, a camera always adjusts what you're trying to take pictures of. And it's not something that has to do with settings or anything. It just has to do with how a camera is a different device than our eyes is, and how
Exactly.
our brain adapts what our eyes sees to create sort of a uniform reality that we live in. And a camera is more sort of reacting to optics and electricity running through it. It's very, very different. But that's also what enables photography as an art or a creative, outlet, because if everything would just turn out in a picture like we see in real life, it would be very boring.
Yeah.
um, so like I mentioned it already 100 times, the amount of light that you can give the device you're using to take a picture, whether it's a camera or your phone camera, is key to the quality of the final image, right? Both in terms of what we call image quality, just how sharp things look and how colors look, but also with the directionality of light, the feel of the photograph, the drama, the shadows are a very big part of um, how textures, for example,
Yeah.
show up on your image. What's called the quality of light, which I will teach you in a moment, is key to contrast and color. Contrast is the difference between light and dark in an image, and color, what we call color rendition, how colors appear in an image, how accurate they are, or how saturated they are, or if there's a color shift in the image. Light plays a part in all of these. And of course, light directionality is what gives an image a lot of visual interest and helps draw attention to things, helps bring out texture. I used a great example here on the left.
Yeah, with the
Uh,
shadow.
yeah, with how as soon as we take a light and use it in a creative way, give a direction, it creates a sort of depth in an image that is otherwise won't be there. An image is always two-dimensional, but using light, we can give it a three-dimensional feel.
Feel, exactly. Yes.
Shadows are a pain in my butt, says Lacey.
Yes. We had a few remarks. Judy was saying we don't always have the kind of props and backdrops available like in the pictures that you showed before, but we are going to talk about props later on, right? We're going to talk about how to stage your images with what you have available, so we will address that later. Jana was saying photo means light. Remembering light is so impactful. And I totally agree. I think that one of the things that we sometimes or I sometimes struggle with the most when taking a picture is that I lay something on some surface, or I prepare some settings to take a picture, and then you look through the camera and it doesn't look the way you want it to be, and you're like, how do I set it so that the shadow is not there, the colors are coming out right? And I think it's very important to know how to work these things.
Yeah, so those are actually not things you work in the camera. That's all about, like we said before, making the image,
Yeah.
preparing the stage, setting up, choosing the direction of the light and the light ratio to another light or to the shadow, things like that. It's not even, it's before you even pick up your camera, those kind of things. By the way, you need to mark a red spot near Carrie. She was late.
Oh, Carrie was late. Wait.
Yeah.
We are giving you a. What are we giving?
I don't know, a poke with a
A
crochet
poke.
nail.
What do we do to people who are late? We can't sit her in the corner. There are too many people in the corner on my channel. we gonna maybe we bring her to the front of the class or something like that.
Reggie, that photo of you is amazing.
Who said that? Alice.
Yeah, and of course I took it.
Of course, of course.
All right, so just really quickly, because I mentioned it only 1,000 times already, how light affects image quality. So in order to produce an image cameras amplify, they always amplify to a certain degree the amount of light that they receive when they take a picture, whether it's your phone or it's a camera. And the amount of amplification is marked as a setting called ISO on cameras. You might have seen it on your phones if you ever like wandered into the manual or pro mode, or if you have a camera, then you might have noticed a button or a setting called ISO. And the higher that number is, the stronger the amplification of light is applied. And the higher the number, the stronger the amplification, the worse the image quality gets. And that's what you see here on the image on the right of
Yeah,
the
on the
screen.
right. Yes.
Right. So the same scene set to a higher sensitivity, okay, a higher ISO, would produce more what we call noise. All right, this grain, this color shift, this degradation of detail.
Yeah.
And that happens when you shoot in poor light. And that is why poor light affects your image quality, because your
Yes.
camera needs to work harder to amplify the signal to create a clear image.
That is something that we see very often when people take pictures with their phones in poor light. A lot of time it would seem as if the picture was well, as if the camera was trying to make it sharp and instead it got pixelized. That's the look that, like, that's how I see it. And I see it a lot, especially with tester pictures that I get from people who are testing for me and sending me pictures of things that they made. If they shoot the item inside their homes, not near a window or at night, and there's not natural light, or the room is not well lit, and then it looks grainy, and it kind of gives you the feeling that
There's
it's
also
dark.
a color shift. If you notice that the
Yeah.
tone of orange in those pictures is completely different. For example,
Yeah.
it's a lot more yellow on the right. So everything sort of goes to heck. You just don't
Yeah.
have the amount of light.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. So I just wanted to address it real quick, but I hope that by you 10,000 times that I mentioned it, that it's clear to you. You need good light.
You need good light, yes.
All right. So let's talk about something called light quality. And that is not like, oh, the quality of this light. Light quality is something we say in photography to describe say the shape or the properties of a light source.
Mm-hmm.
And it goes between two, mainly between two qualities. We call it a hard light and a soft light. Now, this here behind us on the left of the screen is an example of a photo taken in a hard light. A hard light is created when a light comes from a very small or very distant light source. In this image behind us, probably the sun.
The sun, yes.
All right. But it can also be a small light source, like a small flashlight or a distant window, for example, things like that. The properties that hard light gives to an image is it creates usually very dark shadows with very sharp edges. So you can see behind us on the backdrop on the fabric, the shadows that drop
Yes.
from the objects on it are very defined and sharp and
Yes.
very black. All right. Another thing that hard light does is it really saturates color. It makes them really pop and look strong. So reds will look ultra red and blues will look ultra blue, and everything will really, like all the pop colors will really pop.
Yes.
So that's also a property of hard light, as well as textures seems to be a lot more enhanced. This has to do with this quality of shadow, because
Yeah.
textures are just, the difference between light and shadow on a very small scale. And so hard light tends to very much enhance a texture. So that's something you can use if you want to bring out a texture in an image or an object. If you find and use a hard light source, then you can really bring out a sense of texture in something.
Yes.
And soft light, on the other hand, is created by very large light sources. All right. So if if it's sunlight, then imagine the kind of light you get when you have a cloud in front of the sun,
Mm-hmm.
or a light coming through a window that is covered by a thin curtain.
Mm-hmm.
So the light gets sort of spread out and diffused and becomes what we call a soft light. Um, Soft light has more soft, less defined shadows. I'll get my laser pointer again. You can see how the shadows are sort of diffused and not as hard cut as before,
Yes.
right? And not as well defined, like the shadows of the products falling on the paper behind them are not as defined and not as dark. They're a lot more airy.
Yeah.
Textures with soft light are a little bit more mellow. You still get a sense of texture from something that, like a brick.
Yeah, the
Still,
bricks, exactly.
right? You'd still feel texture, but it's not as pronounced as with hard light. And colors will get a little bit more muted and less saturated. So now, after I spoke
What?
about it for exactly 3 minutes, you guys are experts. So I have a game for you. I'll
Yes.
put on this slide before while we're talking, so like the delay of YouTube can catch up, and you can start submitting your guesses. What I want you to say is what picture has an example of which light in it. All right. So which picture has hard light? Which
But
picture has
you need to
soft light?
give them numbers. So we go from left to right on the screen.
Yeah, left to right, 1, 2, 3.
Okay. So you guys can guess which image has what sort of light. And in the meantime,
We'll go through comments.
yes, people were making a lot of comments about us sitting people in the corner. And Catherine was saying we're all in the corner here, referring, of course, to the Cheshire Cat. We're all nuts here. And Divergent Crafter, she was saying a shadow box with light with item photography can help, but still not great. Lori, if your connection is breaking up, I would recommend refreshing your screen. Hi, Dora, welcome in. Okay, people are talking about snuggling in the corner. They got into a whole discussion about us putting someone in the corner because they came in late. Okay, now we have guesses coming in. So Catherine is saying it's hard light, soft light. Divergent Crafter says picture number 1 is the hard light and the other 2 are soft. Ursula is saying to the far right is the soft light. And Fiona is saying picture number 3 is the soft light. Jana is saying the hard light is the left and the soft light is the one on the right. So everyone is saying that the first one is the hard light and the third one is the soft light, and there are some questions about the middle, or a disagreement about the one in the middle.
What is your guess?
Jana is saying that the center one is a concentrated light source to light up her face. Lori has a suggestion. Tardy consequences. You have to weave in all the ends on 100 squares. When every round is a different color. That is a terrible punishment. I would not wish that on my worst enemies. Lori, you are mean. Okay, so
what is your guess?
I agree that the right one must be the soft light, and the left one must be the hard light. I'm not sure about the middle. Yeah, I would say yeah, I don't know. Soft light?
All right, so it's 1 hard, 3 soft, and 2 soft.
Yes.
All right, so I will now reveal the correct answers. You are to grade yourself, and anyone who failed needs to retake the class in Hebrew. Okay. All right. So, like most of you guessed, probably number one is hard light. This is like the most classic hard light example I could find. Hard black shadow underneath the chin, clear cut. This is the kind of look usually you would get from using what's called an on-camera flash. So, like a tiny light that is on top of the camera, shining right at the person you're shooting.
Yeah.
All right. So, a very sort of flat appearance. Everything is super
Oh.
saturated, super bright,
Um,
right?
we can't see what's written there because our picture is on top of it. What did you
It just
write?
says hard light.
Ah, okay. So you guys were right. It is hard light.
All right. And on the far right, number 3, that is a very classic soft light look. All right. So you see, like, the shadows are so soft and full of detail and very graduated. Like, the transition from light to dark is very graduated and soft, and everything feels so airy. A lot of detail in the shadows. So that's the most very classic kind of soft light look coming from a very big diffused light source, like something we call a softbox or something like that. And down in the middle, where most of you all had difficulties, that is actually somewhere in the middle, right? It's somewhere between hard light and soft light.
You're
And I put
me.
it there on purpose because it's not so clear cut. It's light, so it's a spectrum. It's a spectrum. You can have something in the middle also. All right.
You
So
tricked us.
that's what I wanted to show here. It's sort of not too hard, not too soft, somewhere nice in the middle. So you kind of get the best of all worlds if you do something like this. Again, everything of course depends on the sort of image that you want to create. But yeah, all right. Wonder who got it. Anyone who wrote natural light. So natural light would be, for example, light emitting from a natural source, but a natural light can either have also a hard quality or a soft quality. It doesn't, like, there's no such thing as a light quality of natural light. When we talk about the light quality, we talk about hard or soft light. That's it. The middle is Photoshop. Probably also some Photoshop there. All right. Settle down, everyone. Settle down.
Everyone is you tricked us. We're gonna poke you with a crochet hook. Poke, wait. Poke, 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 poke.
Yeah. All right. So it's best. Now I mean a light source, not light quality. All right. So really, the best source of light, the best thing you can use to get light from, is the sun. Technically speaking, it's the best light source that exists in terms of brightness and things like color rendition. Uh, every other what do you call it, artificial light source
Yeah,
that we use in photography or to take pictures sort of tries to emulate natural light
yeah.
in different ways, but nothing comes close to the quality you
To
can
the
get
real
out of
thing.
the sun. Yeah.
You can't like yeah, can
Yeah.
counterfeit that. I was trying to think of a good you know
You cannot
counterfeit
discount.
name for the sun, but
You cannot get discount sun, but you can get close. So a close second would be all of these items, which are photographic lights, that the types of photographic lights that you can use to take pictures. Um, they come close in all sorts of parameters, but again, natural light is just the best. There are some caveats to using natural light. First of all, the reason why natural light is the best, and this is, I promise you guys, like, don't be scared of all these graphs. This is as geekiest as I'm gonna get, and the rest of the presentation is not geeky at all. All right, this is the visible spectrum on the left here, like all the colors that humans can see.
It's
They,
also, for those of you who do C2C, it's a wonderful graph for a C2C blanket, by the way. Yeah,
yeah,
that was the crochet joke.
all right. Someone explain it to me in the comments. So, so on the left, you can see the natural light. You see a big, rich graph with purples and blues and reds and everything, because natural light contains all of the visible spectrum, all the colors that we can see. And on the right, you see examples of the different parts of this spectrum that other light sources contain. You can see that fluorescent hardly contains any parts of the spectrum in it except for mainly green and maybe a little bit of red. And that incandescent light contains a lot of warm parts of the spectrum, mainly red, and a lot of infrared, a lot of heat. Incandescent are those like hot bulbs that you use
Yeah.
in the house. And LEDs, specifically LEDs that we use for photography and videography. So good ones, not like the cheap ones you get at the department store. They contain quite a lot of the visual spectrum, including the blues and greens, which are lacking in a lot of other light sources, and that's why LEDs are or good quality LEDs are usually the closest thing you can get to natural light.
Yeah, you can see a real difference in pictures between, pictures that were taken in, like you said, those regular warm bulbs. When people look like they're a little bit yellow sometimes, or orange even, as opposed to like LED lights, which is, for example, what I have on me right now.
So yeah, fun fact: incandescent is not that bad because until the development of LED technology in recent years, like the real progress that this technology made, this was the most common artificial light source. We would use halogen lights, which have a lot of red and orange and very rich yellows in them,
True.
or a special type of fluorescent tubes that do have a little bit more rich spectrum. But those would usually be expensive, and
Yeah.
halogen lights are hot as hell.
Yes. Oh, they are terrible.
They are very wasteful of energy. They waste a lot of energy
They are
because they
not good
create
for the
mainly
environment.
heat.
Yes.
They mainly produce infrared. They mainly produce heat.
Yes.
So LEDs are a lot more efficient, and they give us better color spectrum, and that's why they're best artificial light source we
Yeah.
can use. Rectal
Um,
bulbs are probably halogen lights that produce mostly heat and not so much color. I'm answering Judy's question, not to Judy.
someone
Divergent
was
question.
asking a question. I didn't look at the chat. Okay, let's see. People were making fun of it. Lori was saying that because you tricked everyone, you need to weave in everyone's ends. Um, and Lori was saying that our parents must be very proud of both of us. I hope they are. Lacey was saying this could have an effect on how colors are interpreted in your picture. Yes, exactly. I think you can really see a difference between pictures that were taken in LED lights versus those fluorescent or other warmer lights. And Judy, that is the question that you were answering, yes?
Judy, I have OTT lights, which
Which
are
are
rated 97%
natural
C
sunlight.
or CRI. I have them in my room. I'm not sure what OTT is, though.
She has them in her room when she videotapes. Don't have any problems with lighting. Actually, Judy,
Yeah.
your videos are one of the better lit ones. So, yeah, whatever you're
Yeah,
using, it's good.
you can get what's called high CRI LEDs that you can just put into your lamps or whatever that have more brightness
Yeah.
and um, better color reproduction, but those are obviously also more expensive than normal lights.
You would use it.
So
Would using reptile bulbs be an option?
Yeah, so that's what I answered. So reptile bulbs would
Okay.
usually be halogen lights, which are
Yes.
mainly heat. They
Yes.
produce a lot of red light and a lot of heat.
They wouldn't be that much of a lighting fixture as they will like make you sweat a lot. Yes, it does explain why yarn looks more red on camera. That is correct. Um,
Not sure this
oh, okay,
question was
Judy.
asked
Now
earlier or
I
addressed,
understand.
but
Um,
if I film red yarn, it blows us. Yeah. All
yeah.
right. So I didn't. There's a part later where we talk about colors where I was going to address exactly that.
Yeah. So we're gonna talk about it
So stay
when we
tuned.
talk about colors. Yes.
So if you're trying to photograph blue yarn and you cannot use the sun, would the LED be? Yeah, exactly. So
Yes.
LED would be the best alternative to using natural sunlight. All right. Incandescent would be like third best, especially if you have incandescent light, like halogen lights that are made for video use.
Hmm.
They are more wasteful. They get extremely hot. They're called hot lights because both they produce mainly hot colors like yellow, orange, and red, and a lot less greens and blues. And also they get really hot. So especially if you're filming yourself,
Yes.
it's a pain in the butt.
Yes.
Um, but they're not completely. They're not as terrible as fluorescent.
All right.
All right. Let's get on with the lesson bit. So this is so here I was talking about the percentage, let's say, of how much of natural light artificial light sources contain, and this is rated as what's called CRI, color rendering index. All right. CRI goes from 1 to 100. The closer to 100 that you get, the better variety, or like the more percentage of the natural visible spectrum is contained within your light source. So low CRI lights would be stuff like fluorescence, like we've seen before. They would be around the 60-70 range.
Hmm.
In between, you'll get cheap LEDs. Around the 90 area and up, to start getting like professional video
Yeah.
graded LEDs. And of course, natural sunlight is the only truly 100% CRI, or sometimes it's called RA. It's the same thing basically. So if you're shopping for a light, you want to look for also their CRI rating, and not just its intensity, not just its strength, to know how good of a color reproduction it would give you, especially when you're photographing
So the higher the
with photo.
CRI on the listing of, if you're buying a light, for example, the higher the CRI, the better for your.
Yes, in general, you want to be above 93, 95.
Okay. Um. Okay, we have some. Okay, people saying that's very interesting. Um. Are ring lights good for photography? Yeah, we said we're gonna still talk about ring lights, right?
We're gonna talk a little bit more specifically about LEDs, and then we
Yeah.
can address ring lights as well.
Okay. Isn't red light one of the colors that made Superman go nuts? I'm not sure that's a photography question, but if anyone here knows the answer, or well, if anyone knows the answer, they're probably in this chat. Um, let's see. Um, Catherine is saying she's often noticed that fluorescent light vibrates on cameras.
Yeah, it's called flicker.
Yeah,
So a lot of artificial light sources have a flicker, and cameras sort of pick up on that because they work with frames. They don't see the world continuously. They actually take separate pictures, and sometimes they might get out of sync with your light source, and it
yeah,
creates a flicker. You could see it, especially when you take video, but you could also see it in stills images, and
yeah,
that's another reason why video graded LEDs are very good, because they would usually be flickering in a rate that fits cameras, so they will not appear to be flickering when you're
Yeah,
straight.
I see that there is one specific channel that I watch that every couple of seconds her camera has to refocus because her light flickers. Well, it's not like you don't see the flickering of the light, but you see the change in the camera. So I think yeah, that is it is noticeable more noticeable when you do videos.
Yeah, especially if you're taking a video, then this is the sort of thing that can really drive you crazy or ruin your video if you have a light that flickers. Uh, a lot of times it can be adjusted with a camera setting. Um, and usually they should be able to do it automatically also. But sometimes, especially if you use cheap lights or a light that is not suited to it, then it would not flicker exactly on the right frequency that cameras are set to or
Yeah.
looking for flicker, and then you would still get flicker.
Oh, okay. I did not know that.
All right. So where to find good natural light? We said natural light is the best light source to shoot with, but where the hell do you find natural light? You know? Where do they like? Do you go to a natural light farm? So, um, yeah, you can go outside during the day, and you might spot some natural direct sunlight. Natural direct sunlight in your huge outside pool, for example,
Yes, that we
would
all
usually
have.
be. Yes, so in a cloudless day, natural direct sunlight would give you hard light. We discussed earlier, you know, very bright light, very clear, very saturated colors, very dark, hard shadows, very pronounced texture. So this is where you can find some very if you want to get like a very saturated, a lot of blues, a lot of greens, bright reds, you know, shooting in direct sunlight would give you those kind of results.
1 second. You guys are having a whole discussion about Superman in the chat right now. That was not my intention. Um, we will address the Superman question and figure out what color makes him go nuts. I promise. Okay, perhaps we will do a whole Yarniversity about that, but it's not the topic of the day. But I'm very happy that you all have so many opinions about that. And Catherine is saying in Belgium you can't find any natural light anywhere.
Unfortunately, I've been to Belgium and she's not wrong. All right. So another very good place to look for natural light is an area called open shade. So open shade is a shaded area outdoors that is open. So it's the best way I can describe. You can recognize open shade is when you, the photographer, can be standing in the sun, but your subject that you're shooting can be standing in the shade. This is open shade. Open shade is very good because it gives you a lot more diffused light, especially on sunny days with no clouds, where, like we discussed earlier, you could get very harsh, very dark shadows
Yes.
and a very contrasty look that you don't always want, especially if it's midday. So open shade is probably the best place to look for if you're trying to shoot outside. It can be if you have an open porch, for example, or a shaded pergola, things like that. Create open shade, the side of a building, the side
Yeah.
of a tall building, but not an alleyway. Like not a place that is blocked on two sides, but only on one side.
On one side, okay.
All right. Because light still needs to be able to reflect and fill in that shade and give you like nice, soft, more mellow quality.
So this is a way of getting sort of like a soft light in a
Yeah, a more soft, a more diffused light in a cloudless day.
yeah. Okay,
Another
people
thing,
are having comments about different countries having sun and not having sun. Alice is from Ireland and she says sometimes they forget what the sun even looks like. That I
yeah,
think so if someone was thinking of opening a natural light farm, Ireland would probably not be the best place.
no, you need to be closer to the equator, is where you want to be. Um, a quick word I mentioned before pergolas and things like that. If you are using open shade in a place that has a colored shade, for example, like a blue fabric shading it or green fabric, then all the light coming underneath it would be blue or green.
Yeah.
So you definitely do not want to shoot there because it will completely shift the colors
Yeah,
in your image.
exactly.
Unless you're going for that kind of look, but usually people should not appear in your images.
Your wife says that she did a course research. Yellow sun of Earth gives Superman his powers. Under the red sun, Superman is rendered powerless as soon as its rays touch him. Thank you, Dinka, for solving
Thank you,
the
Dinky, for this
mystery
input.
of the Superman light. Dinka, you get a golden star.
Oh, you can get stars on your Yarniversity? I should attend more.
No one ever got one until now, so I might have to start giving them.
Disappointment.
Oh, but I poked you with a crochet hook.
Yeah. Okay. And now I have a poke in my arm. All right. And then window light is also a very good light source. If you have nice big windows, usually if they're south facing, you get best light in the day. Um, that way you can shoot with natural light indoors in the comfort of your own home. If you have a home that is exposed to natural light. It's also a very good solution to trying to control a little bit of natural light or create interesting shadows with it. So window light is also a very good option to harness natural light. You can diffuse it with curtains, for example, or shoot against the window as a backdrop.
Yeah, exactly. I was gonna say. Jana was saying, wouldn't it be true that Ireland is actually better for photography than, say, South Africa? Or, in other words, that shade is better than bright direct sunlight. So that's what Ofik was exactly now explaining, the different kinds of natural light that you can use.
Yeah. Also, there's a problem that happens if it's too cloudy. If it's a little bit cloudy, like a partly clouded day, you can get amazing light outside, even if you're not in just open shade. But if it's completely cloudy, completely gray, then there's no color to anything. Everything
Yeah,
looks very bland.
true.
Um,
Yes.
so haven't been to Ireland. I know you've been.
I have.
It's kind
It's
of gray a lot of
beautiful.
the time, right?
Yes, it is. Well, all my pictures are in the rain. All my pictures from Ireland are in the rain and in the wind. Like my hair is all over the picture.
Yeah, so it's true that direct sunlight in a clear day, for example, especially if you're shooting people, would usually give very harsh shadows that are unflattering. So you would prefer using open shade or shoot indoors with a window. But also just having completely cloud coverage is also not favorable.
Okay. Okay. We're having a discussion of sunlight in different places around the
Yes, it
globe.
is a polarizing subject, and that was a photography joke.
Which nobody here got. You're telling it in the wrong room. It's a hard crowd. Yeah. Alice was saying she would behave better if she knew that we can get gold stars.
That's what I said. Okay, so the problem with natural light, I started talking about it already, so I'll run through this one. Obviously, natural light is available for a limited time. So if you have a
Yes.
day job and you're only practicing your hobby on the evening or the weekend, or if you live in a country that doesn't get a lot of sun, then you have very limited amount of time to actually shoot using natural light. It's harder to control. It's subject to all sorts of exterior effects, such as weather or buildings or other things like the time of day, for example, can change the quality of light with natural light. So it's a very good light source, but it sort of comes with its a lot of these limitations and things that could cumbersome using it. And so what I would recommend if is to also have at least have a backup in the form of a good LED light,
Yeah.
right? Especially if you're doing this professionally and not just out of a hobby. If you need to constantly make images and have
Yes.
more control over it,
Exactly. If this
it's
is something you're doing for your business, if you're here for the e-commerce part of the class, then definitely, this is something that you do want to invest in. And we do have a few, like I mentioned in the beginning of today's live. We have a few links in the description box below to specific pieces of equipment. Some of them are different light fixtures that Ofek picked out. So you have the approval of the expert. So if you are looking to get the equipment to produce the best pictures, then links are in the description box below and you can check them out. People are laughing at your polarizing subject.
oh, so some people
So
got
some
it.
people did get it.
All right, so yeah, we set up like a list of products that on Amazon. There's any kind of gear that we will be discussing during this. There's at least one or two of them in there. Um, Not all of them are things that I've tried out myself, but as far as I could verify, they're okay quality. I tried also not to pick out the most expensive stuff. Obviously, there's when it comes to gear, there's endless choices, and you should do your own research and not just take anyone's word
Yeah.
for what to buy.
Um,
I'll try not to get too much into specific gear in this talk because it will take forever.
Before you start, there is one more question. What about overcast natural light? Um, Izila is saying. So, what about overcast natural light? I would believe the white light is very harsh.
So like I said before, for example, partly clouded weather or like a day where the sun can still sort of shine through the clouds, but not in a very direct, harsh
Mm-hmm.
light is probably the most beautiful light you can get out of natural light if you're shooting under direct
Yeah.
sunlight. Color-wise, it doesn't make much difference. Still gets very rich and natural color.
Okay.
The problem is when the clouds are too thick and they block out a lot of the light, because then the light that you're getting is mostly reflection from atmospheric um, things, and
Yeah.
then you get more blue and green and stuff, and less of the colors that are our eye
That are,
lights.
yeah.
All right, so about picking a LED light, the things you want to look at when you're picking a LED are these. You have two main types of LEDs. So you have panel lights, which are like this is a panel light, like just a big wide panel in different shapes, squares or rectangles, usually with rows of LEDs in them, versus what's called a monolight, which is something you see here that has a very small focused chip with very bright LEDs on it, and you control the light intensity on those using different modifiers you can put on them. Um, while panel light is usually has some sort of a diffusing panel on top of it. I'll grab one out of here.
Ashley, we agreed that if you come late to class, we poke you with a crochet hook.
So this is a small one,
Or
but this is
or if you
oh,
come really late, you might have to weave even everyone's ends.
right. So this is a small light, but it's a small LED panel. So you see the LEDs are behind sort of a
Wait,
diffused
one
panel.
second. One
Mhm.
second. Yes, now show it.
Oh, sorry. So the LEDs are behind this diffused kind of panel that helps you don't get the direct light of the LED, and it sort of spreads it out a little bit. And then, of
Yeah.
course, you can also diffuse them with other like fabrics and things like that, so they're not as harsh. So that's a little bit how you can control panels. Another thing, sometimes you see, for example, I included here what's called RGB.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I have it on a further point. I'll come back to RGB. The power output is marked by W, watt,
Mm-hmm.
right? So basically how strong your light is. You're looking at usually it starts from about 60 watt for the weakest video LEDs, and comes up to can go beyond 1,000 even. Um, for photography, you don't need like crazy strong light. You can go with 120 or 200s. These are usually good enough. Videos can even go with lower intensity one. But that's something that differentiates different classes of lights. If you want a really strong light, you want to look for a very high wattage.
Mm-hmm.
CRI, which we discussed before, the
Yes.
color rendition index, you want to look for that in the specifications. All right, that's something that can really mean the difference between a light that gives you pleasant results and a light that just looks like greenish.
And you said we want to look for ones that are over how much?
Eh, Ideally over 95, as close as possible to
To
100.
100. Okay.
All right, so color versus RGB. Usually LED panels would either be one color, so either yellow or white,
Mm-hmm.
or they would have both yellow and white LEDs in them, and you can sort of dial in the what's called the color temperature
Yeah.
between a cool white light and yellow, a
And a
more
yellow
warm
warm.
yellow
Yeah.
light, sort of like
That's what I
what's
have
shining on me now.
on my ring light.
Yeah, also like the yellow ones as well. But just as a side note, for a camera, it doesn't matter
Okay.
because it can adjust how it perceives color. So it can create exactly the same image in white light and
Oh,
in yellow
really?
light. Yeah.
I did not know that.
Yeah. In general, the white ones are actually brighter usually. So even if they're in the same wattage, white LEDs would give you brighter lights.
Okay.
But RGB ones can also create colors. And you can use that for all sorts of um, creative uses in your photography to shine light. For example, to illuminate a background in a special light. Bless
Sorry.
you.
As you guys see, I am still very sick. Yes. Sorry.
So if you see an RGB light, usually RGB would be LED panels, but there are also some models of those monolights that have RGB light chips in them. And RGB means that you can dial up any color of the rainbow that you like on your panel. And whether or not they have their own battery or they work from DC current, like plug
Yeah.
into the wall. It's very handy if you have LEDs that
That
work
have
on
a battery.
batteries.
Yes.
I would say the main benefit of having DC power is, for example, for what we're doing now, right? If I want to make sure that my light never runs out of battery, even if I'm gonna make a 2-hour talk or something,
Yes.
then I would prefer a DC powered one. But battery ones, they are very common nowadays, and they're just as good.
Okay, wait. Before
Okay,
we
so
continue,
before we
we had some questions that I saw before. Annika was asking, you could take a backup light equipment outside to complement natural light. Is that correct?
that is correct, but it depends a lot on the intensity of natural light that you have at the moment and the power, so the wattage, the power
Mm-hmm.
output of your LED. Um, full-blown natural sunlight is very hard to compensate for uh, with artificial light.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when you would use something like, you know, an 800 or a 1000 watt.
Okay.
That those are the times where you want like such strong lights. Or if you have a camera, then you can use what's called the speed light, which are not as expensive, but they are not constant light sources. So these are all constant light sources.
Mm-hmm.
What I have here, that you turn them on and then they
And
shine
they,
like a flashlight
yeah.
continuously. Uh, when you're using a camera, you can also use a flash, okay, or what's called the speed light, that just shines a very
When you
strong light
click.
the moment you take a picture. But you
Yeah.
need to know how to work with these things. They're not automatic, and they add their own sort of layer that you need to learn to work with. But these are the kind of lights that you do use if you want to mix artificial light and natural light, either very strong LEDs or flashes.
Okay. Jana was saying that her photography class always met early in the morning to take pictures for the best light. Is that correct? That you have like better light
Yes.
early mornings?
Better. So technically speaking, not better light, but more light that is considered more complementing and more interesting light. First of all, when the sun is low, so early morning or right before sunset, you get the sun low, so you get more directional light.
Ah, I see.
First of all, so you don't just get the sun shining on you from the top.
Yeah.
And second of all, you get what's called blue hour and red hour. So if you're talking morning, blue hour is about an hour before the sun actually rises, where you get a lot of this blue and purplish light coming up.
Ah, oh, that can make a beautiful effect for picture.
And red hour is usually very, very short on sunrise in most places. But it's more prominent on sunset, when it's about an hour before the sun sets below the horizon, when you get a lot of warm red and orange, this rich sunset light.
Yeah.
So it's a light quality that is favorable in photography, but not specifically different than the light that you get throughout the day. It is rather difficult to work, for example, in red hour, because the light changes very fast. So right before sunset, the intensity of light and the color that you get out of natural light can change very fast. Like a minute, it would be a little bit different.
Yeah.
And that can hurt your consistency. If you're trying to achieve consistent results, it's very difficult to work in those hours, even though the light is beautiful. Yeah, it's you can try it out. You know, everyone taking pictures in sunset. It's very pretty light,
Yeah.
but it's harder to work
But
with.
it's hard to work. Ursula, thank you very much. This top is my design, and there is a tutorial for it on my channel for anyone who is interested. It's a pentagon granny top. Helen said that she was late too, but she will happily sew in ends for whoever wants to. So if anyone wants to take her up on that. Debbie was saying she doesn't understand a lot about cameras and light, but this is very informative, and thank you, Ofek. Isella is saying, in comparing the light sources used when you were side by side on screen, Ofek has a softer light that makes him look natural, and I have a light that blows up the face a little. Is that on purpose? No, that's just my regular settings for when I sit here on Yarniversity. I normally show things when I sit here, and it's easier for me. But yeah, when we are one next to the other, I do look a lot whiter than you. Although in general, I'm a lot whiter than you. Lacey is saying that you really changed her perspective on photography, at the very beginning when you said light is your medium. Light is like our yarn.
Yeah, in photography you work with
Yes,
light,
with light.
basically.
Yes. Alice is making a joke. She's saying there's too many letters on the screen.
Sorry, guys. Yeah. RGB stands for red, green, blue, obviously.
Um, very useful, says Catherine. And Lacey was saying she was okay. Everyone's making jokes. Jana is saying thanks, Ofek. That's very helpful. What you were saying about the blue and red hours. And Ellie is saying actually she doesn't mind sewing in ends in general. So we're not actually threatening her. Alice is saying you're really working the tall, dark, and handsome vibe.
That's what my wife says.
Yes.
It's also my daughter's type.
Yes, she a tall, handsome, dark, handsome stranger.
Yeah, if she finds like another dark dad in the playground, she goes flirting with them. All right. So I want to talk some more specific tips, and here is also where you can easily come in with your tips from your experience.
Yes.
You guys in the
chat,
and
everyone.
You, Reggie, of course. We're gonna look at some common uses for. Like I said, I try to give use cases that relate to your world and the kind of uses that you use to advertise products. So one of the most basic kind of shots that we have when we advertise products is the flat lay, where the product or the whole composition of the picture is laying on a flat table, or also laying on a hanging on a wall, like in this example here. But in general, sort of a flat composition of items that should highlight your product. And I've given some nice examples here.
Yes.
So the thing to remember about flat lays is that they are basically very two-dimensional. So composition, the arrangement of them, is key to creating interest in them.
Yes.
Right? Really paying attention to what goes inside the picture, inside the frame, and what isn't. Paying attention to selecting the background and the color relations of the objects that you put in there, and the size and distance and placement, all of those things is very key in those kind of things, because there isn't anything else in the picture, right? There isn't an interesting background.
Yeah.
Or like a person usually won't be in there.
I have to, yeah, this is where I want to like jump in and say, in the world of, crochet on Instagram and like I said, selling patterns, crochet pattern testers, or crochet pattern designers who want to, sell their pattern on different platforms. You may get two different types of pictures. One of them might be when someone models the item, and the other one when it's laid flat. If you're a designer or you're posting on Instagram and you're using a laid flat item, these stuff are key. What goes in the picture? What is the composition of the picture? How are things laid? It needs to attract the eye. Just laying something flat on a white background without anything else in the picture, like just the item that you're picturing, a lot of time can get lost. Not
just be boring.
Yeah, it is. It's
appear bland.
It's bland, exactly. When you have more things, and it doesn't have to be like, you don't have to like go and start buying things to specifically lay around. Like when we are looking at the top left picture, it looks like she just went in the kitchen, got like a baguette and a few apples from her bowl, from her fruit bowl, you know. It doesn't have to be like specific things that you
it
buy
doesn't have
in
to make
order.
sense or
Yeah,
something, but it speaks to a feel. And
exactly. You remember the pictures that we showed before at the beginning of this section, and we said the picture tells some kind of story. It gives you some kind of feel when you look at it. So that is very important, especially like I said, if you are selling your pattern on any kind of media, and when people search, they get a page full of pictures of different designs, and you want their eye to attract to your design. The composition of the picture and on what is in the picture is really, really important. It needs to have like that extra factor and not just an item laid flat on some sheet, you know. Sorry.
Yeah, also notice just technical composition principle that most of these items are not completely centered. Well,
Yeah.
there's always an exception to the rule, like this one here behind our pictures, but most of the time the central item in your composition would be slightly off center. It just creates a more
Interesting.
dynamic,
Yeah.
interesting composition. Interesting backgrounds with textures. So again, there's always an exception, but notice that this background is not completely blank white. It has some sort of a color to it, and also has a gradient of light.
Right.
So it's not completely flat. The other ones here all have textures, either a sheet that it's not completely pulled and you can see some texture in it, and it also gives you a little bit of sense of direction of light, or like this nice wood panel,
Yes.
probably hardwood floor or something. Anything that gives some more sense of interest to your background helps make the image more engaging. And well thought out, what's called a color scheme. I will talk further about colors in a little bit, but notice how, for example, if you try to count in each of these pictures how many colors you can see, you would usually end up with like 3 or 4. So if you look at the one here behind us, it's mostly reds, browns, and yellows.
Yes.
Right? And this one here has a very this sort of teal, light bluish, green and orange set of colors. So you're not all over the place, right? There's what's called a color scheme, a few colors that make up almost the entire image, and everything in the image relates well to each other color-wise.
Yes. Catherine was saying that she likes the using different props to give an illusion of perspective, but she sometimes have problems with larger items. And Divergent Crafter was saying to that point that if you have larger items, you can use letters or something to stand up so that you can take a picture of a larger item laid flat. Yes, and Judy was saying she has the same problem when she's taking pictures of shawls. There's no place big enough where she can lay it out flat. I actually saw quite a few pictures of shawls that were very interesting. They were laid, but they were not laid flat open. They were like one side of them was maybe like rolled.
You can fold it if something is symmetric. Then you don't have to show it completely.
You don't have to show the whole thing. Some of them were like folded like an envelope, and you could like see the texture in the shawl. Some of them were like rolled up with the two tips of a triangular shawl rolled up, and it actually created something very interesting in the picture. So you can, of course, hang them on the wall and take a picture and somehow like create the illusion that they are laid flat. But I actually do like it when you take pictures of larger items laid flat, that they are not completely flat. They have also kind of interest to the item. The item itself, the way it is laid, is also interesting to the eye.
Yeah, definitely. And like I saw someone in the chat mention eye candy. I said complimentary items. So a flat lay
Yeah.
where you just have, a bag laying on a bed sheet is rather dull. But once you add all these like items around it that help tell the story, help sell the character that you are suggesting to the viewer, is more interesting
Hmm.
and ends up being thought of as more pretty.
Wait, we have a question. Ofek, what is the best way to take photos of hand painted wallpaper samples that I would like to have reproduced for fabric? Her dad was an interior designer. He designed wallpaper in the 50s or 60s. Wait, what is
Mhm.
the best way to take photos of hand painted wallpaper samples?
Well,
I
uh,
have no clue.
Re- yeah. Reggie, for some reason, I'm hearing myself, I think, through your end somewhere.
Mine?
I
Wait.
was hearing myself again. Okay. So this might be a little bit out of what we mean to talk about, but if you need to send uh, a sample or a picture that needs to be a very, very, very accurate representation of color, for instance, of anything to be printed or reproduced, there's actually photographers that have this expertise on how to produce this kind of image. It's a little bit more complicated than just snapping a picture with your phone. Um, there are things you can do if you're using a camera or a phone camera to help get the most accurate colors, and actually have a further slide a little bit later mentioning this. But you want to use good light and a natural background and have something for the camera to reference neutral gray in the frame. So usually you would use a gray card. Um, but that's a little bit more techy. And if it's something that you need to do from a business standpoint, that you need very exact representation of something to be reproduced, then you might want to consider to contact a
A
professional
professional,
for
yes.
that specific task. Okay, I have some bad examples. I try not to give too much, and I really hope that no one like that I took pictures from their
Wait a
Instagram
second.
or Etsy shop is on this is on here. And it's no offense, and I will like explain why like those ones are here and what could have been done on them, because not all of them are terrible. They're just not so good flat examples. Something you can see in some of these, and I saw in a lot of examples, is blown out highlights. So you can see it in this one here in the top left. So blown out highlights is what we call in photography when something in an image gets so white that it just becomes pure white in the image, and then you cannot see detail in it anymore, and uh, it just looks bad in general. So you can see it here in the background a little bit, and in some parts of the pom-pom and the hat, that it sort of loses detail, and you start being able to see and notice the texture. Um,
Yes.
and that usually happens. I believe this was taken with natural light, and that happens because it was taken way too close to a window. So light has a natural fall off gradation that is not linear. That means if I draw it with my laser pointer for a moment, it doesn't fall off and concentrate like so, like start strong and go gradually weaker as you go away from it. It starts strong, it falls off very fast like so, and then it gradually levels off. So if you are very, very close to a light source like a window or a artificial light source, then you would get very strong contrast. Even if your light is very, very diffused, you would still get this very, very bright part of an image close to the light source and a
Yes.
lot darker rest of the image. Like the relation of brightness between here and here is huge, even though the transition seems soft because the light source is very big. And that's why you get blown off highlights here.
Yes,
And
and
I saw so many examples on it when I was looking for examples for this presentation.
yeah, I was gonna say there are I see them a lot on different Instagram posts from people who photograph their work, and I think that's something that you just like you don't know about that, and then like you don't understand why the way that you position your light makes it happen. And Ursula, I think that also addresses to what you were saying about yarn, red yarn blowing out. Because when we shoot tutorials, our ring light is right above where our hands are, and it kind of like completely. There are certain colors that completely blow out. And it would be a lot better if, when using red yarn, you just position your light further away, or in a different angle, and then you will be still able to use red light and still see the stitches if you are, set on using red yarn in the tutorial. But it has to do with the way the light is positioned and how far away it is from the yarn. Sorry.
Yeah. So that's correct what you said. Sometimes a color
Yes.
can get blown out separately of the rest of the image. Reds, for example, are very prominent and reflect back a lot of light and can get blown up even if other parts of the image didn't. Poor image quality, like we can see on this one here, the image looks kind of soft and it lacks detail. I don't know if it's a camera's fault or poor lighting or a combination of both. But it comes to a point where it just doesn't look good. It looks like it was taken with a toaster or underwater. Something that is just boring or dull. I mean, this hat might be very nice, but the image is not very compelling like the ones that we've seen in the previous slide. And also the other end of it is this example behind our heads here,
Yeah,
which
what?
is
Wait
way
a
too
second.
busy.
Let's see if I can't move us. No, I can't move us. Okay, I'm sorry. I tried.
It's just way too busy. There's too much going on. I don't know what's the center of the image, what's the item being advertised, right?
Yeah.
So you need to
Oh.
be wary of not going overboard with your items or your composition.
Yeah, I was trying to move us so that we can see it, but we can't. But yeah, the to the image on the left, there's just too many things, and that's an example of someone who wanted to create some interesting composition, but just like overdid it. So there's like the yarn and the item that she made and the blue background, and then there's like a bit of a plant and some bowl full of something, or is it just another plant standing next to it, and then there's this doily, and on top of it the scissors and the crochet hook. Like, it's just too much in one image. So even in the create a composition part that we were talking about before, there is such thing as too much of it. Like, you have to choose the right amount of items to be in a composition so that it won't overdo it. A toaster, yes.
All right. So these are some flat lay tips and advice. Like I said, we will circle back a little bit and talk more about colors. But the second kind of images that we are making when we're advertising is what we call product shots. And these are, of course, short shots that mean to highlight the product. They are different than flat lays that in which they are not laying flat. They are more three-dimensional. Um, and they are the kind of picture that we use to promote the product. Mostly they would usually be the kind of highlight picture in our either Etsy shop or our Instagram, like to make people want the product and maybe like give a sense of the product or a feel associated with it to the viewer. So
Yes.
these are some good examples of this. Um, So they would have foreground to background relation. Because they are not flat, then you need to notice, for example, the relation between the background and your subject, the foreground. Your subject would usually be in the foreground, in not necessarily in the dead center of the image, but front center stage, and still have an interesting background. But what is the relation between your subject, or your hero of the shot, for example, and the background? Is the
Yes.
background blurred? Is it further back, or is it very close? The kind of light and colors that are in the background, and is it tidy or is it messy? Right? You need to remember what's behind your subject. If you just have a very
Yes.
nice arrangement of things on a table, it's very nice. But if your background behind you is very messy, it sort of draws the attention out of your
Yes.
image. So you do need to pay a lot of attention also to what goes behind your subject.
Yes, what's in the background? It's very, very important. I once again, I have to talk from a point of a designer. It gets pictures from testers. I normally use my tester pictures on my Etsy listings or on my website to promote my patterns, so that people can see the same pattern done in different yarns and how the pattern looks in done by different people. I cannot use pictures that the subject of the picture might be very, very nice, but in the background there's a lot of things that draw the eye away and are just not related to the picture or are just messy. And that is something that's also very, very important when you make the picture. Make sure there's a good relation between what you want to take a picture of and what's behind it.
Yeah, what's behind it, and how we call it, how busy it is. Another very important thing to give with these kind of shots, product shots, is a sense of scale. So trying to include things that give us a sense of what's the size of the product. Am I looking at something that is napkin sized or full blown
Yeah.
blanket size? Is it like a tiny puppet, or is it large, or like include something for sense of scale? If there
Yes.
is just a product standing on a almost blank background, for example, or on the floor with nothing else in it next to it, then our mind doesn't get a sense of scale.
Yeah.
It's very can be very important when it comes to buying objects, uh, especially things like clothing, or like toys and puppets that we have here.
Yes.
And you can notice, for example, even if it's not super exact, that you can tell that this is kind of a small thing because it's standing inside of a planter, and you can see it in relation to this sort of plant. You can
Yes.
sort of get a sense for how big this is. You can know that this blanket behind is large because it's covering the entire
The entire
chair.
chair. Yes.
Right? And you can sort of get a sense for the size of this cute puppet here. Um, Another cool thing is to create a sense of depth. Because it's not a flat lay, you can play more with three-dimensional space. So if you have, it's easier to do on a camera, but now a lot of phones do it. If you get like a background that is further away, you can blur it out. You can do some of it in editing as well. Um, Play with objects in the background, in the distance, have sort of a middle background and a far background, like in the image here behind us, or use what's called leading lines in
Yeah.
this image of the puppet, because it's laying inside of a basket, and it creates sort of lines that are pointing into it
Yes, I love
and
that.
draw
I
you
really
into
love
the
that one.
picture. And that creates really a good sense of depth in this image. It's a really nice composition for this kind of product, and gives you also kind of a sense of scale for it.
Yes.
And again, the thought out color scheme, coming on from the previous slide, again, these are all, even if they're very colorful, or if they're more monochrome like this one, they have thought out color scheme. So if the product is brown and red, looking for colors that complement it well, like other reds and greens, and not putting it somewhere that's all over the place, will complement it well. You want to think about colors that highlight it and work together with it, either in contrast or with harmony, which I will talk about more in a bit. I promise, I keep saying it, but we will get to it eventually. Right? So noticing, as it's more difficult when you're working on a big set like this blanket,
Yes.
because this image takes on a larger space and you need to think about the entire room. But when you're, especially when you're showing smaller products, it's very easy to make a small arrangement of an area and just clear it out and put just what you want in there. Uh, Color wise and with the supporting object, and really make a thought out image. It goes back to where we started. Remember, we're making an image, we're not just taking a picture. So taking into account all of these things help make for a good hero product sort of shot that really highlight your product, help show. Notice things like we talked about before, like the quality of light in these images, how they bring out color, how they bring out texture.
Yes.
Right, a lot of these are sort of either open shade kind of areas, or indoor with sunlight through a window kind of look. I'm
Yes.
not
I
completely
think
sure the.
it's like the golden combination of everything that we talked about until now that makes it like really pop.
Yeah, these are all components that when they come together, then the images just really pop and look great. And if the image look great, then your product gets an aura of, that it's great, that it's quality, which of course it is, but you want to transmit it to the buyer,
Yes, exactly.
right? Uh, let's see if we have questions before we move on to people pictures.
We have people commenting and saying don't put any dirty laundry in the background. And Jana was saying that the only place in her house which she has a mirror is the bathroom, so she uses editing programs to get rid of the toilet and the bathtub in the background. And Lori was saying she once saw a picture of someone put on Etsy, and the woman was wearing an item over a nightgown, and there was a man sleeping in a bed behind her. That's a terrible composition. And hi, Chris, welcome in. The item was a cardigan, so it was had nothing to do with the scene that she was taking. Yeah, but to play on that, yeah, don't take the pictures when there's like a lot of noise in the let's just say noise in the background, like anything that's I got tester pictures with where you can see the garbage can full in the background and all kinds of stuff like that. So just be wary of what is in the frame. I think that's the main point. For everyone coming in late, hi, welcome in. Thank you for joining us, and please don't forget to hit the thumbs up for today's video. All right, moving on.
Moving on to people pictures. All right, so people pictures would be pictures where we have people in, usually of items of clothing, not exclusively. It can also be for jewelry and
Yeah.
other trinkets. But when we have people in the picture, they immediately become the main subject. It's usually becomes more important that even if your image is trying to sell, like a sweater um, or like the jewelry on her ears or anything like that, it's very important that the model looks great
Yeah.
in those kind of pictures, because the viewer will project themselves onto this person.
Yes, exactly.
So you need to make them look great. All right, you need to turn them into this character that you want your item to project. All right, so in these kind of pictures, the accuracy of the color of the item or seeing it completely is minor. All right,
Yes.
this would be kind of a hero image to get people to click on your item, and later you can have like more accurate product pictures in it they can cycle through to get the exact sense of it. But this needs to really highlight the person showing your item.
Yes.
So again, the foreground background relation, again, like the product shot before, is similar. You need to take care of what's happening in the background, what it looks like, where it is. I will not elaborate on that again. We talked about it. Make sure it's not too busy. You can, all right, you can choose an interesting background, but try to keep it not too busy. You can find very interesting backgrounds in cities, inside, outside, outdoors, really anywhere. It's
Yes.
just a matter of um, using your photographic eye and like sort of trying to cut out a piece. A lot of times you would be in a place and be like, oh, it's so busy and it's not so pretty. But if you just cut out this little window out of it and frame just that, right? No one can see that behind this bush is,
Yes.
a football field. It, suddenly looks amazing. Um, if you want, look up, I think there's a Facebook group called Beautiful Pictures in Ugly Places. And it's a group where photographers share, first of all, a beautiful picture that they took usually, and next to it, a wider shot of the location where they shot it. And then you can get a sense of how a photographer can turn like just, some garden in the middle of a street into a scene, because you cut it out and you frame it in a certain way that just leaves the stuff that you want in the frame. And you can use it even if you're not at the most photogenic scene or the most pretty clean city or whatever. um, Good lighting is important. We discussed it. All right. But what's very important to notice when shooting people is that you get natural looking skin tones. So people's skin tones, whether they are darker like me or lighter like my wife or Legev, whether they're of Asian descent or African descent or Caucasian, the whole range of skin tone in the human species is usually on the spectrum of orange colors.
Hmm.
All right. You don't want to get green people in your image. You don't want to
Yes.
get blue people in your image. All right. You want the skin tones to appear nice and neutral on the orange and reddish scale of colors. And that's what you're looking for when you're photographing people. Even if they are modeling your product, it's most important that their skin tones look natural, because
Yes.
if their skin tone looks a little bit off, it will completely throw off the feel of the entire image. It will make them look weird or sickly, and it affects the viewer even subconsciously.
True.
So you want good lighting. In these images, you see mostly examples of kind of soft lighting. It's usually the kind of lighting you go for these kind of light filling pictures. But you also can see like examples of use of hard light, especially in fashion and makeup industry, for example, when shooting people. So it's not that you have to use soft light, um, but I did find a lot of examples of preferring soft light, especially for female subjects. The color scheme again, all right, so try to match what's going on in the background of the image to the color scheme of the item that you're photographing, so the clothing. If you're taking for example, a shirt like this one behind us, all right, um, try to match the rest of what the model is wearing
Hmm.
to this color scheme, so don't let it be like completely detached, and as
Yes.
well as choosing what's going on in the background. Sometimes you can match in editing a little bit the color scheme, right? Like if you, I don't know, if that car in the background was actually green, then I could
Make it
change its
pink.
color, make it in editing, if I know how to do it, right? But most of the time we want to do as less editing as possible. It just brings out better results usually, and makes us do less work, um, so yeah, also think about color schemes. So for example, if you're shooting like those earthy tones, going outside and shooting in nature will give you usually a nice clear color scheme for that.
Yes, I agree. I love pictures of models outside. I don't know why, but I feel like it has a feel to it. How to shoot people.
Yeah.
Ofek shoots people for a living.
Yeah, usually they would be the one paying me to shoot them also.
Yes, people pay you to shoot them.
Right. So, and this is sort of the big one when shooting people. All right, you want to have a character that sells your item, right? Like some sort of a good feeling idealization of a person that you want your
Yeah, they all kind of look in all the pictures. They all kind of look really like
really chill and happy, right?
chill. Yeah, they're chill. Like in their zone.
Yeah, so you want your viewer to, project themselves onto it and get the feeling that, this item is for a chill lifestyle, or that he is
Yes.
this chill character and therefore he needs a
Yeah.
it sort of works in this funny psychological way. But when you start like thinking about it, you notice how companies advertise to you in this way all the time.
Yes.
So, and you can use it to sell your items, so why not? uh, Also part of this character is telling a story, so who is this character, where is it going, what's he doing, is she out like on a day, is she a soccer mom, is she like out for yoga in the wild, or like looking for bargains. I don't know, like
Yeah.
as well thought out as this character you can have, usually the better picture you can
You will
make, better
get, yes.
pose, you'll have a better idea of where to put it and uh, how to how to create it. It's really a lot of something you put a lot of effort into in the production stage of planning how to shoot items for fashion, for example.
Yes.
Right, let's look at some questions.
We don't have questions. We have a whole lot of comments regarding you saying that green and blue are not good colors. Catherine was saying that aliens and Smurfs are people too.
I would like to see the Etsy shop that advertises sweaters for aliens and Smurfs, though.
Yes.
All right. All right. So I think this is the last of this type of things. So the clean background shot, right? The clear e-commerce kind of shot, that is the shot that needs to be the most accurate representation of the product you are selling, as far as color goes, and texture and shape. And this would be usually the picture that is on a blank single color background, usually white or some sort of a gray or pastel color.
Yes.
All right, with no texture and almost usually no shadow or almost no shadow on it. All right, this is the e-commerce shot.
Yes.
It doesn't have to be your hero shot when you're
Sorry.
selling.
Ah,
Yes,
sorry. Thank you.
it doesn't have to be your main shot, your hero shot when you're advertising, but it's a good idea to have one in there because it should give the most accurate representation of your product. How you do that? Needs to have a good separation between the product and the background. All right. So if you're shooting a white product, don't
Yeah.
shoot it on a
Don't
white
show
background.
not white product on white background. Yes. I
All right.
totally agree.
There's a special expertise for product photographers on how to do shoot white on white or black on black, but just like don't make it so difficult. Just don't shoot white on white or black on
Yes.
black. There's plenty of colors.
There is one crocheter that I follow on Instagram, and she has I don't know if that's true, but at least like from her Instagram stories, I think she has like one wall in her house that is purple. And so whenever she needs to picture something that is white, she always like uses that wall to stand against. And I think that is so true. Like if you have the possibility, choose a different background. Like otherwise it just disappears. Wait.
Yeah. So obviously
Yeah.
you want good separation, like to have a good defined
Yes.
edges, so you get an idea for the shape. Ideally, you would want a good sense of texture for these kind
Yes.
of shots, and very accurate representation of colors. So if in a lot of the other shots you don't have to get the most accurate color,
Yes.
in this you really want to try and get
The
um,
accurate colors.
yeah, the good accurate color. And for that, that's why a lot of times you would use either a white or a gray background, because I won't go too technical into it, but when a camera sees inside the frame something that is supposed to be white or gray, then it has the best ability to create an accurate representation of
Of
the
the rest of the
color of
colors.
some of the of whatever's in the image. If it doesn't have anything in the frame that is white or gray, then it would sometimes create a color shift. Having a uniform background, like I said, nothing too distracting. You want the focus to be on your item. You want good detail in it. Usually, this is the kind of image that people would like pinch to zoom in and look at all the details. So you want nice sharpness. You don't want to crop it too much. So you want the highest resolution. You want to use your best camera on your phone or the camera you're using for this one. And accurate color, I said it multiple times.
Yes. Alice was saying when she was decorating her new room, she decided to leave one wall untreated, so it's completely clean but bare red brick. It will be gorgeous for photos. I agree, Alice. It's a really good idea. I also have one wall in the house that is red brick, and I very often use it for pictures.
Yeah, that would be gorgeous. We don't have red bricks houses here in the country, I
No,
think.
it's a very European thing, I think.
Someone asked about time lapse videos, I think, before,
The,
and we
um,
haven't discussed those yet. I will say a quick word later about creating videos. Um, Black and white. I want to kind of run through this a little bit. Apparently, that's a thing for some of
yes.
you guys.
Yes, a lot of times in crochet, you will, for example, people like me, who sell advent calendars or so on, or that we produce a yarn club boxes. For those of you who came in late, by the way, I mentioned before that the March edition of the yarn club is already on my Etsy shop, and since there is 25% off on my Etsy shop until the end of the month, now will be the best time to get it. And the March edition will be wool free. That was a side note. But for people like me who create, patterns for Yarn Club or patterns for Advent, or sell Yarn of the Month and so on, where the color or the end colors of an object are supposed to be a surprise, or like it will ruin the surprise if you put a picture before someone got them in the mail. Then you put the picture up in black and white, which is why it's very important, and also for us designers who sell our patterns, a lot of time people will buy the pattern and then they will print it. They will print it out so that they can sit and work on it. And a lot of, I know I do it when I print out a pattern to sit and crochet. I print it in black and white to save color on my printer, and so it's important that you can see what the item look like in black and white, that it wouldn't like completely disappear.
All right. So how to take comparing black and white images. Um, so how every camera works is it always is in color. All right. Um, when you're switching your phone or your camera into black and white mode, you're actually taking a color picture and then the device converts it into black and white.
Yeah.
The thing is, you don't have control over this conversion, and it's not something you can fiddle with afterwards if you shot it immediately in black and white mode. So my top tip for creating black and white images is to actually shoot them in color, because then you have more control when you're editing about the result, which colors get converted into what level of brightness. should blue become black or should blue become white, for
Mhm.
example. You have control over this if you shot in color and you're converting to black and white in the post process, in the editing, rather than if you just switch your camera or your
To
phone
shoot
over
in
to
black
black
and
and
white.
white mode and shoot straight away.
That's a very good tip.
That's a top tip. Um, so in black and white, since we don't have color, texture is very big in telling the story of the picture and giving a sense of
Yeah.
texture for the item and interest in the picture. So use more directional light to enhance textures and create interest and directional shadows. You can
Yes.
see directional light here, for example, how this corner is bright and there's a shadow here, rather than just a flat light from the top that flattens everything. Um, you can use a little bit more harder light to create very hard textures like here. Um, when you're processing the image, you want to look for good contrast. So you want to make sure that you end up with an image that has blacks and whites in it, like black and white,
Hmm.
and not this image, for example, which is mostly gray.
Yeah.
In the photography world, we call this kind of image a gray and white.
Yeah.
Um, all right, it sort of lacks contrast and it's not easy in the eye. Here in the middle, it sort of lacks definition, and
Yes.
things sort of start blending together.
Yes.
It doesn't feel right, right? So you want to have good, healthy contrast. Shadows should be black. The darkest point in the image should be almost complete black.
Yes.
Um, and introduce textures like you see here, very nice, interesting texture in the background. Here, there's a slight texture in the background. Here, there's a slight texture in the background. But this is way too busy, right?
Yeah.
This texture is an sensory overload. It's
Yes.
unpleasant.
Yes.
So use textures with like with care. Take very good care of the texture you use and how much you use. Of course, it should be in relation to your whatever you're shooting. Um, these are examples of the same image converted in different ways to black and white. It's rotated, so it doesn't appear like the same image.
But it is.
It's
We
just the
trust
same
you.
picture with different forms of conversion.
Yeah.
So you can see how one time, a certain color can become very dark red, and another time it can become a lighter sort of gray or white.
Yeah.
So that's what I mean when you have more control over it. And you can also create this selective color kind of
I
effect.
love that. I really like
Yeah.
that.
So you can only do that if you shot in color. If you shot in black and white, you cannot
Yeah,
create
of
selective
course.
color. And therefore, the tip to always shoot images that you intend to make black and white, shoot them in color first. Okay. I'm gonna switch over for a second because I mentioned a lot of times color matching.
Yes.
So here I want to introduce to you this tool called Adobe Color. Let me just load up something real quick. Okay. So Adobe Color is a online service from Adobe that helps you create color harmonies. It's really cool. All right. So
It
we have
is.
this color wheel, and what you can do on the left here is create different color harmony schemes. For example, what's called analogous means that I set the middle color to whatever color I want, and you see all these other colors in the fan, sort of keeping a harmonious relation to that color. And you get this color scheme
I love
that you
it.
can export. You can get accurate measurements of color, or you can just, copy this and use it as a base to plan out your shoot and the color scheme in your images. You can
Yes.
also adjust it, like you can take the colors and spread them out some more or make them more dense if you want. And every time you click, you place the central color on something. For example, say say that your item is purple. So if you set to a certain tone of purple, here you get like a color harmony that works well with purple, and those would be the colors that I would look for either in my design if I'm designing now something
Yes.
to knit or crochet, or in my shot if I'm looking to create a harmonic feel of colors.
Yes.
So maybe I would go with a pinkish reddish pinkish kind of background, or match the pants of the model with a jeans color that is bluish, for
Yeah.
example.
Oh, I love that. That is a really,
Um,
really good tool.
you can also go for monochromatic and then plan for a more monochromatic kind of image or graphic if you want
Mm-hmm.
like something that has a nice palette of browns. This is good if you're designing ads, for example.
Yes.
So you can go on, get all these shades of purple. You can create also a user on this completely free. Just create a user, you sign in with your Gmail, and you can save those things, and then you can use
And then
them.
you can use them. Oh, wow. I love that.
Yeah, if you use the Adobe programs, you can export them directly into like Photoshop or whatever, and use the colors for your ad you're doing. Complementary is when you want to create contrast, so it will give you the opposite color.
Oh, wow. That is beautiful. Look at that teal and brown.
All right. So if you want to know like what color contrasts best with a yellow, then
Yeah.
you can set it on it. And you can play with the saturation of it if you want more pastel, for
Yeah.
example.
Oh,
You can
wow.
also
This
have a
this tool
split
is perfect for
complementary.
me. I'm terrible with matching colors.
Yeah, I'm also. I use it a ton for designing like posts and stuff because otherwise I'm horrible at color matching. So you can go through these. I won't go through all of them. I want to show you one last thing, and that's the extract theme. If you go into the extract theme, I can
Mm-hmm.
drag in a completely random image I grabbed out off of someone's Instagram, and it
I
will give
wonder
you
whose Instagram that was.
and it will give you a color scheme, and you can also set targets.
Wow, that is so cool.
And then you can also take that color scheme back into the color wheel
Wow.
and use it. And then you can click save it and use this color scheme either to
Wow, that
plan
is a
out
great
or
tool. So what is it called? I want to later on put the link to this into the description box for
I'll
everyone.
send it to you later. It's called Adobe Color. You can see it here
Okay.
in the top
Adobe
corner. So
Color.
you
All
can
right.
Google Adobe Color and you'll land on it. Or you can type in the address
Yes.
color.adobe.com and create a user so you can save your own palettes
Yeah. So Ofik will send me the
and
link, and
explore these ones.
I will definitely edit that link into the description box later on for you guys. That is so smart. Um, we have a question. Is there a simple explanation for how to do black and white photo with pop-up color like the purple yarn picture that you showed?
Um, yeah, there's very simple explanation. A lot of editing apps, for example, can let you create this effect. It would
Mm-hmm.
usually be called selective color or something like that. I think Snapseed has it, for example.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you can on apps or programs like Lightroom, you can create control the saturation of different colors separately. So you can desaturate, like choose to convert all the reds to monochrome, all the greens, all the blues, and just keep one color in the picture, and that would also create this kind of effect.
Yeah.
So there's different ways you can do it with different apps or different programs. A lot of phone apps will have such an effect built in.
Yeah. That is I am pretty sure Snapseed does something very similar.
I'm pretty sure Snapseed
Yeah.
has that one. Incidentally, Snapseed is not the best for converting black and white because it does not have, or at least I couldn't find when I was testing it before this. It doesn't have individual color conversion controls,
Oh yeah, no,
which
that they
Lightroom does have, but a ton of other programs do have. And
okay.
Lightroom on your phone is free to use.
Yeah, you said that was one of the programs that
Yeah, it
you
was in my recommended
exactly you
order
recommended
before.
before. Okay.
Is there an app that does the same for free? Adobe is free. Adobe Color is free. Right, the Adobe Color service is completely
Yeah.
free. You can create a user also for free. It just lets you save paths on your user and share them and whatever. All right, so some general photography tips, and you guys feel free to give your own tips also in the comments.
Yes.
Right. So first of all, I mentioned it before. If you're using your phone, some phones have multiple cameras with different resolutions in them. So figure out which is the best one and use that one for most of your work. Generally, it would usually be the default camera on the back of your phone. All right.
Yes.
So not on the screen side, but on the back. The one on your screen side is usually a lot lower resolution and has a very wide lens, so not so good for that. Don't crop in the camera. So if you're gonna shoot a picture that's gonna be square, for example, don't set the camera into a square mode. Take it a little bit wider and crop it
And
later.
crop it later.
All
Yes.
right. This lets you, first of all, to use the same image for different social media. So if Instagram likes squares, but Etsy likes rectangles,
Yes.
you can use the same picture.
That is a very
Just
good tip. Yes.
crop it differently. And also, especially if you're using your phone, a lot of phones are very wide lenses. And so if you're shooting something that fills up the entire frame, for example, a very large sweater or something, you might want to take the shot a little bit wider, like make the sweaters a little bit smaller in the frame, take it from a little bit further away, and crop it in later, and you would get a better shape. You will not get the distortion that the phone gets on the edges of the frame
Yeah.
when you do that. So don't crop in camera, all right? Shoot wide. Actually, always shoot a little bit wider than you would to allow cropping later for different platforms or to improve the image. This is what I'm talking about when I say aspect ratio, all right? So an aspect ratio is the ratio, the relation between the height of an image and the width,
Yeah.
and it's mentioned in ratios. And that's very important, especially when you're sharing images to different social medias, because different social medias like
Yeah.
different image ratios.
That is correct.
So your phone would a lot of times the screen would be 16:9 or a wider kind of ratio. But not a lot of social media likes 16:9 images. Usually when you set your phone to camera mode, it will either go into a 2:3 ratio, which is the green line on this image, or a 4:3, which is the black line, which are more rectangle, classic rectangle image shapes.
Yes.
Etsy, for example, loves 4:3.
Yeah. Etsy is 4:3. For all of you on Etsy, if you ever took a picture and then wondered why it looks different on the Etsy
cropped.
thumbnail, they crop it 4:3.
Yeah, so even if your hero shot on Etsy is square, it will appear as a 4:3.
Yes.
So you can set aspect ratios usually in either on your camera when you're taking the picture, or if you're cropping in an app, you can usually, instead of cropping freehand, like just drawing a rectangle by your eye,
Yeah.
you can a lot of times set
it. Yes.
the ratio, and then
Right.
the image would work best on different social media. So you can get exact square for Instagram or an exact 4:3 for Etsy. Snapseed does that, Lightroom does it, a lot of other apps do it.
Yeah.
So that's something really important to know when you're talking about image aspect ratios, and also knowing what social media likes and works best.
Yes,
with
that is a lot
ratios.
of times the problem. A lot of times people don't exactly know or are not prepared for the fact that different social medias will cut their picture into different sizes. So it's important to know. You get that. I think you get that on Facebook too when you upload a few pictures. So if you upload just one picture, you will normally see the whole picture. But if you upload a few pictures, they will become squares. And like if you don't click on them, if you click on them, they will open up to the real size. But in the Facebook
we're talking
feed
about the
view,
feed.
the Facebook feed view, you will see them as squares. And so a lot of times it will look weird. like if it's not cropped correctly. The Facebook will make them smaller, and you will see 3 squares, and it won't be the right composition of the picture that you have planned.
Yeah. I have coming up later also, I found out the ratios for popular social media. I will give them to you guys.
Okay. Lori says she really loves the term hero shot that you're
Yeah.
using.
The hero shot is the your leading
Yeah.
shot for selling your product.
Exactly.
All right, so shoot a little darker. If you intend to post-process the image, so to adjust it later in either on your phone with an app or on your computer with an editing program, if you shoot a little bit darker than you intend to, then you would have a little bit more leeway for editing your contrast in the image, and you would be able to retain more detail. Something you really need to be wary of is blowing up details, so getting something that is way too bright,
Yes,
because this is a lot harder to recover in editing than something that's just a
that
little
is
bit
too
dark and you
dark.
brighten.
Yes.
If you want to brighten it up, you might get a little bit of decrease in image quality, but most phones and cameras handle it okay nowadays. Rather than if something got blown up, it's
It
very
will be
difficult to
very
bring
hard.
back.
Yes.
So if you intend to do post process to apply like different filters or to get the exact brightness or contrast that you want in the image, shoot a little bit dark. So if you don't know how to do it, usually on your phone you tap where you want to focus, and then it's different in every phone, but you would get some sort of a slider usually either on the side or where you tapped, and you can slide it to make the image brighter or
Or
darker.
darker.
Right? That's called exposure compensation. So you want to compensate down a little bit, right? Just a little bit to make sure that the brightest points in your image are not clipping
Too
or not
bright. Yeah.
burning. Okay, so we talked about it before. This brings us back to the red question that came
Yeah.
by. So a lot of times hot colors, like very saturated red or pinks,
Yes.
uh, can sometimes get blown out before other colors or parts of an image. Uh, Even if your image itself is not like too strongly lit, and it happens also a lot in sunlight. So the way you avoid this is like Raghu suggested. If you're using artificial light, dial it down, bring it further away,
Yeah.
try to diffuse it more. You can try to compensate down the image to darken it and later adjust all the colors and brightnesses in according to that hot color that clips. All right. Or if you're staging, then like your shot, if you can, you might choose to get rid of that element that's clipping if it's not
Yes. If
part
it's
of the
not
item that
the
you're shooting.
yeah, if it's not the item that you're shooting. Exactly.
Yeah, then you can try to get rid of it or replace it with something less, saturated and bright.
Yes.
Right. So some social media
Sorry.
content tips coming on the end here.
Yes.
Um, let's see if there's questions before we
No,
make our final run.
we don't have any questions. People seem to be listening very carefully to us.
All right.
Or they fell asleep. One of the two.
You know how you can tell if they fell asleep?
Ring something very loud and see if they.
No, you end the live and you see how many watching now stayed. All right. So some leading media content tips. First of all, I know we spent all these almost 3 hours now talking about stills imagery mostly, but a lot of leading platforms nowadays are going towards video and
Yes.
promoting more and more video content. That goes, of course, for TikTok, which is all video, but Instagram with Reels, YouTube with Shorts, Facebook with its own type of Reels. If you want to stand out and promote your products and your shop or your brand on social media, stills are a big part of selling your products, but videos are
Are the
huge
way
at
to
getting
promote it.
noticed.
Yes, exactly.
Right? So you should seriously consider of getting into doing video to promote your brand and get people knowing about you
Yeah.
in all of these platforms. Especially Instagram, which is very, very, very stills focused and is very fast going hard towards the video.
Yes.
And
Instagram is getting more and more into like reels and stories and
it's prioritizing video. Now, if
yes.
I log into Instagram, into my regular feed, I would get like the first 5 posts would be video.
Videos, yes.
All right, so the big one first, Instagram. Some tips. Thought out design and consistent looking profile attracts more views, followers, and link clicks. Okay, so say you have your post up and someone already noticed it and clicked into your profile. All right, if it's really thought out and well designed and pleasing, it will get you more followers and more link clicks.
Yeah.
Like people will engage more with a profile that looks well. So you can see some examples here of these designed and organized profiles. That goes for, you know, like the images having a sort of a consistent look and
Yeah.
keeping a nice high consistent level, and you can create those like profiles that have those split images that fit together.
Yeah.
You do this with an app called Big Square or Giant Square. Yeah, Giant Square, where you can load a single image into it and it will divide it into squares, and then you upload them to Instagram.
Yeah.
And it creates this nice feed in your profile.
Yeah, I've seen quite a few of those, and they're really cool. Like, I mean, when you see the pictures separately, they're like, why is there only half a picture there? But then you go into the profile, and it looks really nice, like kind of like a mosaic.
So it's sort of funny when you're first uploading it because it does show up in the feed like half a picture, but then people might understand that it's part of your like
Yeah.
profile design, and they will click into your profile. So you
Yeah.
actually might get some clicks out of these weird images. And of course, in future, every time someone walks into your profile, they see it.
Yeah.
On Instagram, use the carousel. All right, so this feature that lets you scroll
Yeah.
to the right to see more images, to show details. So you can show, for example, your full hero image first to get people clicking on it, and then in the carousel show a detail shot out of that image, for
Yeah.
example, to show the texture up close, or have for example, like your plain background image of the product with a clickable link. In Instagram, you can insert now links to
Yeah,
your store.
clickable links. That is a very good tool.
All right, so you can leverage this carousel feature of Instagram to get people attentions and then get them into browsing your store, for example.
Yeah.
Have a bio. Take some time thinking about like creating a short bio, so people don't need to click like show more or something to read it. They don't take too long to read it, that they understand what you're doing and what you're promoting or selling. All right. You can use emojis, for example, to make it very clear and organized. Try not to keep it all over the place. And Instagram lets you put just one link that is clickable in the bio, right? So use it wisely. Choose where you want people to go, or use a service like Linktree that
Yes.
lets you send
That has
sends
like
people into a page with a lot of
with
different
all
links.
your links, exactly.
So this is some Instagram tips. Let's see if anyone else has more Instagram tips.
Catherine said before that she doesn't crop her pictures on Instagram. She just zooms them out because Instagram lets you do that too. The only problem with that is that when you go back to the profile on the profile itself, everything is in a square. So even if you have a picture that when it showed up on the feed, it was full, in your profile, it will be cropped. And that's what Ofik was talking about. When people go back to your profile and view your profile, they will all be cropped in a square. So that's maybe something to think about.
So yeah, this is part of the reason Instagram does work best with squares, but also I think I have it coming up here. The Instagram and also Facebook uses these aspect ratios for their posts. All right. So your profile, um, the thumbnails in your profile are always squares, even
Yeah.
if the photo itself is not.
Yes.
And if you're posting an image in the feed that is not a square, this is the weird recommended aspect ratio that they use for rectangles.
Yes.
All right. And if you want a tall image, like a standing image or what we call a portrait image that fills up the most out of the screen of a phone when you're scrolling through an Instagram feed, you use a 4:5 standing ratio. Right? It's a little bit of a weird
Yeah.
ratio. It's like a long rectangle. But this would be the kind of picture that fills up
The
the
most of
largest
the
picture
screen.
you can post to Instagram.
Yes.
It will be cropped into a square, of course, in
In
your
your
personal profile, but in the
profile.
feed that people scroll through, if you want like a giant picture that catches someone's eye, you use a tall, so a standing 4:5
Yeah.
rectangle. Um, and stories and reels use full screen 16:9 tall, 9:16 ratio. All right, so a widescreen or an HD
Yeah.
image ratio. So when you're making stories or making a photo that needs to go on the story,
It
and
fills
of course when you're
the whole
making reels,
screen.
yeah,
Yeah.
it will fill up the whole screen. Let's talk Etsy. Like if you have more experience on Etsy, but these are like some tips that I could gather
Yeah.
from reading. First of all, Etsy's guide on how to post pictures to their site, and also from some articles on the matter. So the first image, Etsy lets you upload per product up to 10 images.
Up to 10 images per product. But again, in the search, only the first picture will appear. So that will be your thumbnail.
Yeah, and that would be your what we call the hero image, the one that
Yeah.
needs to be eye-catching and engaging and the best representation
Exactly.
of your product. All right, it would be cropped to the 4:3 wide
Yes, like we talked
rectangle
about
ratio.
before.
So if you want the full image to appear in that rectangle, um,
It
crop it
needs to be,
beforehand into
yeah.
4:3. Um,
Yeah, consider the crop.
yeah,
That's what we just said.
yeah. So Etsy search results always shows those 4:3 rectangles, and in general, Etsy works best with those 4:3 or 1:1
Yeah.
ratio photos, and use all 10. You know, there's no
That
reason not to.
yes, that's what why I was saying. I mean, I mostly sell patterns on Etsy. Like that's what's mostly on my Etsy shop. And when you sell, I would put all the pictures that I took, and then as many pictures of my testers that are usable, because we were talking about what usable pictures are. So whatever pictures that I got from my testers that are usable, that are appealing to the eye and showcasing the image, those are the ones that I would use, but as many as possible. So if you have 10 pictures, show 10 pictures, because you will sell more if people can see more angles, more possibilities of the items, it done in different kinds of yarns and so on. The more you show of the item, the better you'll sell.
Yeah, and try to give, try to eliminate any kind of question that someone
Yes,
might have. So
exactly.
give a good sense of scale
Yeah,
for the item and texture or material or anything. You have 10 pictures is way more than enough to show all these
exactly.
things. So you can use like the first two or three for like really showing off and catching the eye and making the viewer want to buy it, and then the other ones to focus on giving information. All right. We're at this point where I will answer any question you have about photographic gear. You don't need to buy anything. But those things can really help, especially if you're doing it, as a small business entrepreneurship and trying to sell your products. um, it, Once you need to take a lot of pictures, having all
Yes,
this gear really makes life
helps.
easier. All right. So the first big one is a tripod. All right. A phone tripod, a camera tripod, something to keep your camera in place so it doesn't move in between different pictures. You can take
Yes.
multiple versions of the same picture. Um, Help you stabilize it, helps you record yourself if you're taking pictures or videos of yourself, for example. Someone asked about time lapse, for example. Time lapse is great kind of content you can make, like to stand out on Instagram and
Yes,
TikTok. A time
definitely.
lapse of you knitting or crocheting, you definitely need some way to hold your phone and take a time lapse of you. You can also have these kind of tripods that are uh, handy when you're shooting top downs or
Yeah,
flat lays.
exactly. And they're also good for tutorials for those of you who are doing YouTube.
Right, so tripods can help you shoot top down. If you're vlogging, you can have like these octopus kind of stuff that can hold your light and your microphone and
And your camera.
all things.
Yeah.
Personally, I actually don't have it handy here. It's in my bag. I have something like that for my phone in my bag that I walk around with. So it folds down flat. It can fit in your pocket. You can pull it out, hook your phone up to any tripod or whatever.
That's a universal mount.
It's just a phone holder
Yeah.
with a screw
Yeah,
that fits. Most of these tripods have a standard size 3/4 inches screw, so it just fits
exactly.
that.
Those items, by the way, that we are talking about here, they are all linked in the description box below for those of you who are interested.
Yes, though we would have examples of tripods
Yeah.
in the description. You can look into those. Light stands. Light stands are tripods for your lights. They hold lights. Um, you have all kind of different like heights to them. They can also hold other things. For example, a backdrop, like a background. They can hold reflectors, which I will explain in a little bit. You can have small ones that can clip onto a desk. If you're shooting really small items on a desk and you need something to put on your little light, for example, or they can hold a camera also if it's a small camera or your phone, for example.
Yes.
So they are very useful, especially once you're using LEDs that we discussed in the beginning. You're also going to need a light stand for them. Not all of them ship together with a light stand. You might need to buy them separately. If you use expensive stuff, so like expensive LEDs or cameras or whatever, you're gonna want to prefer light stands that have longer legs. They are more stable and that are cushioned. You have ones that are spring cushioned and ones that are air cushioned. That just makes it so that in case something gets loose and the light stand collapses down, then it doesn't fall down quickly and hurts your gear,
Yeah.
but it gets cushioned by the spring or by there's an air system in it that absorbs the shock. So the more expensive ones have cushioning. It would usually be mentioned in specification. And another big thing is light stand safety. Once you put something on a light stand, you want to put a weight on it. You can see it here. There's a sandbag. All right. You can use a sandbag. You can use other heavy bag. You can crochet your own sandbag. Um, just it needs to weigh like half a kilo or something, but
Yeah.
you can add an extra weight on the bottom, or if you have a boom arm on the other end of a boom to balance it and make sure it doesn't get blown off in the wind or knocked off accidentally
Yeah, we
and
just
hurt
got
your
a
expensive light.
comment for someone who said they bought the tripod for top down photography, and when she put her phone on it, it knocks the whole thing over. It didn't hold the weight of the phone, so she put a weight on the bottom of the tripod so that it would stabilize.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so safety is important, not just to protect your gear, but also so that your light stand doesn't fall on your model, for example.
exactly.
So whenever you have a light stand with something, always when you have like a boom or an arm overreaching the center of a tripod, you need to balance it out with a weight on the other end. Like
Yes.
you see here, this is a boom arm, for example, like we've seen before with a tripod that can extend out from the middle. These are diffusers or reflectors. They're usually sold as what's called a 5-in-1.
Yes.
So you get like this one diffuser and has a cover that is reversible, that has a side that is silver, gold, white, and black. And these are reflectors, and just a plain circle with no cover is a diffuser. And what they're used for is when you're shooting with constant light, so natural light, sunlight, or strong enough LED light to be reflected. It helps you reflect some light. So, for example, if you would shoot a backlit scene because you don't want the direct sunlight hitting your model, you'd bring in a reflector on the opposite end, and it would bounce some light back into her and illuminate her, like you can see here on the bottom. And if you use a golden one, then the bounce would be a nice warm golden color, for example.
Yeah. I
So
have
this is what they
those.
use reflectors for. It's very handy when you're setting up. You have them in all sorts of sizes, so you can get
Yeah.
small ones for shooting your small items, or medium or large ones for
Yeah.
shooting people. Helps a lot when you're shooting outside. You can be used as a diffuser to create shadow. We spoke about open shade.
Yes.
So you can sort of, if you don't have open shade or you have direct sunlight where you're shooting, you can set it up as a diffuser. So use it without the cover. The light sort of shines through it, and it spreads out and diffuses and makes shade that is more pleasant to shoot in and gives a more soft result.
Yes.
Um, yeah, can be used as a reflector, obviously. So these are reflectors, diffusers. They are called 5-in-1s usually. 5-in-1.
Yeah.
Product photography tent. Usually, if you need to photograph a lot, like a ton of products on plain backgrounds,
Yeah.
like plain whites or plain pastel, for example, then you might consider getting one of these things, and then you can just swap out the products inside it and get those e-commerce kind of shots that are not so interesting, but you can punch them out and put them up on
I
a
know that.
website when you have large stocks.
Yeah, I know a lot of people who make amigurumis or different kind of dolls use this. It's very very useful. Yeah.
Yeah, the thing is, it gives you like a set environment to shoot
Yeah.
in, and then you just swap out what's inside it, so you can shoot a ton of things. Again,
Yeah.
like if you have a web shot with a ton of items, you might consider getting something like that. It usually comes with lights already built in. It has like
Yeah.
comes with backdrops.
Also good for you yarn dyers. If you're looking to
Yeah, because that light is usually balanced, and you get very accurate color out of
yeah.
shooting in one of these things, and you usually get almost no shadow. So we discussed video lights a little bit before, so just I will breeze over it. Video lights give you a controllable, adjustable, and portable light source that you can shoot with, so you're not dependent on natural sunlight. You can use it for stills, you can use it for video, for your social media. They're available at different sizes and shapes. You have the panels and the monolights that we discussed. You also have this type, which are bulb holders. They
Yeah.
usually look like just sockets that can mount onto a light stand like this.
Yeah.
And you can screw in like
A
high
bulb
quality
and
LED that you can buy. They're usually not as good as the panels or the point light fixtures, but are okay. They're
yeah.
a budget option. You can get the whole kits of them off of Amazon or eBay or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, we have Alice is saying that that set up the box is next on her list. And we have a yarn dyer in the crowd saying they use that for their hand dyed yarn. So yeah, very useful for different kinds of products.
Yeah, this is the end.
Oh,
My
this is
only
the
friend.
end.
The end. I know we went a little bit over the usual Yarniversity.
Yes, but I think it was very interesting and very useful. I mean, we did have quite a lot of universities in the past few months that were more like lightweight universities, and I think it was important. I learned a lot, even though I knew what today's lesson is about, and even though I had the presentation, beforehand, there still was a lot that we talked about, especially that color matching tool, because I suck at color matching, which is why most of my yarn is colorful gradient yarn or variegated yarn, so that someone else did the color matching for me. But yeah, definitely I will edit that link into the description box for those of you who are interested in that later on. But quite a lot of very, very useful information. I gotta say about the equipment part, when I set up my YouTube setup that I have here, a lot of the things that I have here are things that I got recommendations from Ofek. Ofek pretty much told me what to get, and I think I mean, a lot of these things are very, very helpful for those of us who take pictures for our business, or even just to promote ourselves on Instagram or Facebook. It's very, very useful information, and thank you for coming today and hosting on my channel.
It was fun. It was fun chatting to y'all. It was fun making this talk. I think I'll give it again. Maybe in Hebrew on my channel.
Yes, I'm sure. I'm sure it will be very useful for anyone, not just us crocheters. Let's see. We have some. Catherine said she hoped the tent would help her get consistent, uniform pictures, but it didn't. And Alice said, "Can any of those lights be used for sunbeds?"
All right. So regarding consistency, the thing is, if you're changing what you're photographing, and your camera is an automatic camera, like just your phone camera on its default setting, which is automatic, then every time you take a picture, it will readjust according to what you set in there. And that would change consistency, especially if one time you're shooting something more bright, sometimes something that is more dark, then you would get less consistent results. What you need to do is set your camera or your phone into a manual mode. That way the settings of the device don't change in between shots, even though the subject that you're shooting
yes,
does.
that is.
And then the result
exactly.
stays consistent.
I was just gonna say, you literally just did a tutorial about how to shoot products at home, but it's in Hebrew. Why doesn't your channel have subtitles in different languages?
Some very few videos do have. I had a short period when I did do subtitles. The thing is, there's no if you work in English, then Google has a very handy automatic auto captions for English, and then you don't need to bother. But if you want to do it out of Hebrew, then you need to manually create subtitles, and that is very time consuming.
Yeah, I can imagine.
So I stopped doing that.
Yes, well, no, I wouldn't either. Well, everyone seems to have had a lot of fun, and everyone's saying thank you very much for the class, and that they learned a lot. Ashley was asking, what is the piece behind me? This is the Sherwood cape. It is a video tutorial on my channel, as well as what I am wearing. This is also a video tutorial on my channel. You can find both of them if you go back to the channel, to the playlists section, and press the tutorial playlist. You will find all of my tutorials there. So this one is the Sherwood cape on Imogen, and mine is the Pentagon granny top. So everyone's saying it was very interesting, great topic. And Catherine said, well, Catherine was here, so she saw my setup, and she said that the setup is amazing, and she can attest to that. Is there anywhere you can get like a starter pack for beginners? Asks Alice.
Like for lights and stuff, you can get sets of lights. You have them on Amazon, on eBay. If you just like write photography LD or something like that, you would usually get offers of sets that comes with light stands and lights. The problem with those sets is usually the light stands are very cheap, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So I would recommend buying separate light stands if you want good quality things that will last and not break after a week.
Yeah, some of the equipment is more expensive than others, but like I said, if you are getting it because you're going to constantly use it, then it is worth investing the few extra bucks to get something that is good quality, and you wouldn't have to like, change it again and again and again or get frustrated.
Yeah, definitely. Well, a lot of photography stuff tends to be on the expensive side. There are some things that are really cheap, and even some things that you can get away with DIY. For example, if you already have a good light panel, if you're just looking to diffuse it, you can buy a softbox, which is not too expensive, or you can use something like a bed sheet or a
Yeah,
shower curtain, and it
exactly.
does the same thing. It just not as, it doesn't connect your light and you need to set up something that hangs it, but otherwise
But
does
you can
exactly the same
definitely, yeah,
thing.
exactly. You can definitely use what you have handy at home. It's like it's just sometimes it's just as good if in the frame of what it is that you are trying to do. Like if you're not like professionally opening a studio now,
Yeah, keep it in context. If it's a small
Yeah,
side business, you don't need to go overboard and get like
exactly.
a giant camera and tripod and set up a studio in your basement. You know, and I try to keep the focus and show you that you can make do and really improve the quality of your imagery with good planning, well thought out compositions and color schemes, and
Yeah.
attention to detail rather than buying gear.
Yes, definitely. Well, thank you, Ofik, very much for joining me today and for being here with me. And well, pretty much for hosting this Yarniversity. I was just sitting here nodding my head most of the time, but I think I did it gracefully. I think I did well.
Always, always.
And you're always welcome to come back here to my
I think
channel.
I'll definitely come back to Yarniversity and try and earn a gold star as
Yes.
a
Well, now
in
that
the
I
watcher.
I will be, now that apparently I have to give them away. um, Lacey saying amazing information, amazing presentation. Thank you so much. So many content creators do not have subtitles, says Claptrap. Yes, I think that what Ofik just said is the main reason. I actually, I know that my channel has subtitles in some languages, but it's because it is in English.
It's
And
auto-generated from English.
yeah, and since Ofik's channel is in Hebrew, it does not. However, he does have one video with his wife that is completely in English, and it's quite fun. And I think you earned a gold star on there as well.
Yeah. Or rather, she earns one, I think.
Or maybe she.
I always lose in those games.
You always lose in the way. I also always lose on my channel. Somehow. This game, something's very wrong with that game. Somehow the people are.
Yeah, it's biased
Yeah.
towards the
Yes.
guest team.
So yeah, thank you very much from me and from all of yours for coming in today. If you guys haven't yet, please don't forget to hit the thumbs up for this video. If you're not yet subscribed, please subscribe down below. I hope that you enjoyed your time with us today, and I hope that you will join me again next week for a new Yarniversity without Ofek, sadly, but maybe he will visit us in the chat. We shall see. Dinka is reminding us all that you did lose in all of your videos. Yeah, and thank you very, very much. And
You're welcome. It was fun. It was a pleasure.
Yes.
And have a good night, everyone.
Yes, have a good night, everyone, and we will see you next time. Wait, I didn't take the end stream, and I cannot do my regular goodbye. Wait, here. Okay, so bye.